Good evening and welcome to a wet but thankfully mild Goodison Park. It's the first taste of midweek Premier League action in 2023, and as it stands right now, one of these teams might be set for a relegation battle whilst the other could be prepping for a European tour. Everton welcome Brighton. Kickoff is 5 minutes away as Z Cars is unleashed in Goodison Park. We are just moments from the players coming out from underneath us. We've got full commentary here on 5 Sports Extra, BBC Sounds and the BBC Sport website with myself, Tom Gale, and the former England and Premier League goalkeeper Paul Robinson. Paul, we are less than 5 minutes to go till kickoff. Would you agree with that? One could be set for a relegation battle, the other certainly with aspirations for European football.
Certainly Brighton be looking to push. I think Everton are coming here in a very different frame of mind after getting a fantastic result at the Etihad in their last time out. I think there's not many people that give them a chance to even get a draw. You know, a result there for them was fantastic. Coming here today could have been very, very different. They're playing against a good Brighton side tonight, and if the first 20 minutes here tonight after a heavy defeat at the Etihad, potentially it could have been toxic, but they're coming into this game full of confidence, and as usual it's a fantastic atmosphere here at Goodison Park.
So the players have emerged from underneath myself and Paul here in the main stand on to the Goodison turf. Everton in their royal blue shirt, white shorts, white socks, and the visitors in their fluorescent orange kit. We'll run you through the team news if you haven't already notified of that on your BBC Sport website or app. Frank Lampard makes 2 changes following Saturday's impressive 1-1 draw at Manchester City. Onana is suspended. Godfrey, who had that lively duel with Haaland, he drops to the bench. So in come Dwight McNeil and Tom Davies. Looks like Everton are switching to a back four. As for Brighton, World Cup winner Alexis McAllister makes the squad, but he's only on the bench. Roberto De Zerbi makes 4 changes from their 4-2 defeat to the current league leaders Arsenal. Top scorer Trossard, Lallana, Lamptey and Gilmour all drop to the bench. So teenager Evan Ferguson makes his first Premier League start. Caicedo returns from suspension, while Veltman and Sarmiento get the nod. So those lineups for you in full. Everton, Pickford in goal, back four, Patterson, Tarkowski, Cody and Mikalenko. The midfield, Davies, Gay, Iwobi, McNeil, and a front two of Damari Gray and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. As for the visitors, it is Sanchez who's in goal. The defenders, Veltman, Dunk, Colwell and Estepina. Caicedo is in midfield, March, Gross and Matoma, and up top Ferguson alongside Sarmiento. In terms of the bench, Neil Maupay doesn't start against his former club. He's amongst the Everton substitutes. Yerry Mina has recovered from illness to make the bench. As for the Brighton squad, as we sort of mentioned before as well, a depth of talent. Are you surprised, Paul Robinson, by the number of changes from Brighton?
Yeah, very surprised, because I didn't think they played too badly against Arsenal. I'm surprised that McAllister's come back in so quickly after only returning to training yesterday. He's on the bench. Trossard's the one for me that he's left out. I wonder if he's carrying a knock. I've seen him a couple of times this season. I've been very, very impressed with the striker.
So both sets of players are stripped down to their respective colours. Everton will be kicking towards the park end in the first half, so from myself and Paul's left to right as we sit. But this evening, Everton Football Club will remember all former players, staff and supporters who sadly lost their lives in 2022.
During 2022, as well as the legendary Pele, who passed away last week at the age of 82. The names and images of those no longer with us will appear now on our screens. The period of applause will end on the referee's whistle.
So impeccably observed on behalf of myself and Paul. Our condolences to the families of anyone who lost someone in 2022. Tributes played to those former Everton players: Billy Bingham, Jimmy Harris, Terry Darricott, Davy Johnson, Mike McGeehan, Neil Robinson and David Turner. So we are all set here on 5 Sports Extra. We have had a switch just prior to that, moments of applause. So Everton will be kicking towards the Gladys Street end in the first half. It is Andre Gray stood over the ball, and referee Andre Mariner is just about set to get us underway. Midweek football, midweek Premier League action under the lights here on 5 Sports Extra, BBC Sounds and the BBC Sport website. That roar will tell you that we are underway, and it's an early touch out wide for Patterson over that far side, looking down the line for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. It's Tom Davies who's trying to pick up the scraps, but it rolls through harmlessly for Sanchez, who opts to play a side-footed pass out to Colwell. It's over in the left-back position for Brighton. It's tight over there, and needlessly, Paul Robinson, they concede an early throw.
Everton pressed high, put under pressure. Calvert-Lewin's going to be so important to this Everton side, not only tonight but for the rest of the season. If they can keep him fit, he's been missing for so long. They've struggled for goals. They haven't got goals from other areas, and Frank's got a really big decision to make in January, whether he goes into the market to get somebody as direct cover for him. Mopé's come in. He's not going to score the goals that they need. He's a hard-working striker, but he's your classic 8-9 goals a season striker. Calvert-Lewin comes in. You see the impact that he made at the weekend. Played 70 minutes against Manchester City.
That's the voice of former England and Premier League goalkeeper Paul Robinson alongside me, Tom Gale, as Everton come forward right hand side of the penalty area in front of the Gladys Street end. Step over from Gray, checks his run to McNeil. Iwobi on the apex of that far right hand side of the penalty area as dreadlocks flowing in the moist Merseyside air. Everton 0, Brighton 0. Patterson, it's tight over on that far touchline. McNeil comes inside, finds Gray. He's nipped away by Veltman, and Brighton look to win back possession, but it's temporarily. It's with Tarkowski in the centre circle, being roared on by the home fans. Players switch to the left hand side. Mikolenko checks his run, comes back to Tarkowski.
You can tell that you've been used to living in the north, Tom. Moist. That's very conservative. It's absolutely pouring down here.
But it's one of those, if we are trying to paint the picture, Paul, love a slide tackle in this weather. If you hit that perfectly on this surface, you are skidding for days.
This is perfect weather for football. I used to love playing in weather like this.
Tom Davies slips in the surface, but the referee adjudged that Solly March did commit the foul. It's in the Everton half. We played 2 minutes, still goalless. Of course, there is 3 7:45 kickoffs in the Premier League. Not that we want you to go anywhere, but over on BBC 5 Live, available on BBC Sounds and the BBC Sport website and app, is Arsenal Newcastle. Here Everton coming forward, ambitious ball by Tarkowski, looking for Mikolenko. It's going to go out easily for a Brighton throw.
And that's what you get with a right-footed centre-half playing left-sided centre-half. It's always going to be difficult. Tarky, I played with him at Burnley. He's got a great range of passing, but when you're trying to guide that ball down the left-hand touchline with the right foot, and he's always going to drift out of play.
No Premier League player has made more blocks so far this season than James Tarkowski, 40. His nearest rival, his former teammate Ben Mee, has made 20, so half that total. So it shows you how key he's been at the back for Everton alongside Conor Cody. It's a nice partnership blossoming there, Paul.
There's no coincidence that their former manager was Sean Dyche, both Tarkowski and Ben Mee, and both of them will put their body on the line to prevent goals.
Brighton certainly in no hurry to come forward. Sanchez had the ball, rolled it out and then got it back again. Colwell's being pressed by Iwobi. And Everton press pays off. They win the ball in the Brighton half. Centre of field, Gay has his heel clipped from behind from Sarmiento, and it's going to be an Everton set piece. Around about 15 yards into the visitors' half, and Jordan Pickford wants an early touch of the ball. I don't think he's had a touch, so he's racing up to the centre circle just to usher it over to Andre Gray. Well, they're all big games in the Premier League, Paul, but for Frank Lampard, who just makes his way to the edge of the technical area, he needs a win soon, ASAP, tonight.
I'm surprised he changed formation, because what he did at Manchester City worked so well. They packed the midfield and they overpowered Manchester City at times, and they played very, very well in midfield. Tonight he's gone with a 3 in midfield and the 2 behind Calvert-Lewin again, in a way that they've played this season, and we'll see how they do. He's looking for a team in confidence.
Gray with the free kick. Davies at the back post, comes back off dunk. Calvert-Lewin picks up the scraps. He gets to the byline, checks comes back to Iwobi, shooting opportunity, good save by Sanchez, down to his left, firm palm, sends it behind for the first corner of the evening to Everton.
That's a brilliant save by Robert Sanchez. Free kick goes deep. Davies heads it against the back of the centre half and it falls to Iwobi. He just opens himself up, puts it right across the goalkeeper into the bottom left-hand corner. Through a crowd of bodies, the goalkeeper's clearly unsighted. Robert Sanchez makes a fantastic save to keep his team in the game.
Tom Davies is adamant that should have been a penalty, as Paul beautifully described there. His initial header came off the back of Dunk. Davies felt as though there was an arm. No sign from referee Andre Mariner that a VAR check is underway, so the corner swung in by McNeil, deep to the back post, headed across goal by Cody. Sanchez comes and claims. Great bit of goalkeeping early on, what you want,
very
especially
good
as an away player.
Very, very good save by Robert Sanchez there. He's been an excellent goalkeeper this season, and I think he's developed since his time at Brighton. He took the number 1 jersey, and I think he's grown. He's been excellent since he's come into the team, and I think there you see him growing in confidence as well, taking crosses, which is something that's become part of his game.
5 minutes played, still goalless, but a big save from Robert Sanchez. Of course, Spanish international, went out to Qatar, didn't see a minute of action, but his experience begins to grow, and Brighton are in need of a clean sheet. They are. Both sides that are out in front of myself here, Tom Gale and Paul Robinson, Everton and Brighton, are susceptible to conceding goals, so a clean sheet will be top of the two respective manager and head coach wish lists, as we see Roberto De Zerbi make his way out into the Everton rain, and he's watching his side defenders. Iwobi feeds Calvert-Lewin across to Gray, lets the dummy Davies edge of the box, can't get there quick enough to get off the strike, but he does well, checks in field, then takes on the strike. Comfortable height for Sanchez, but another save is required. He's got a teammate down in the 6-yard box, but play continues.
Really good interchange there by the Everton front three. McNeil, Gray, Calvert-Lewin. Tom Davies arriving late, gets his shot off, forces Sanchez into another save. Demarai Gray just did a little step over on the edge of the box. I don't think anybody was expecting it, but it was the ball through to Calvert-Lewin, and that's what Calvert-Lewin gives this side. He stretches defences. He makes centre-halves think that they're playing against somebody that can run in behind. Everton haven't got that without him playing, and when he does play, he stretches the game, and he makes centre-halves worry what's over their shoulder.
There's a pause and play. It's Lewis Dunk, the Brighton captain, who's just outside of the edge of his own 6-yard box. He went down initially, wasn't totally clear as to the reasons why, but the man who's played every single Premier League minute this season is not wanted to be going off early. Didn't receive any treatment, so it will be an Everton throw midway through the Brighton half, and Andre Gray rolls it to Calvert-Lewin, who then kicks it out for a Brighton goal kick. Certainly Everton on the front foot, which you would expect Paul Robinson at home.
Positive start from Everton, and they're not afraid to go direct as well. With Iwobi on the right hand side, they'll put him up and they'll play the ball into areas where they can be effective. They've got a real high press on here. Brighton trying to play out from the back. Everton with 5-6 attackers pressing. They've won the ball back with Demarai Gray already in the final third of the pitch. A really good high press from Everton. The
draw tells you that the fans are liking what they see from Frank Lampard's men. They just recycle the ball back in their own half. Centre circle, Cody looks left for Gray, hangs in the Merseyside air, good chest control first time, stood up by March, checks in with his right foot, low cross, which Dunk doesn't allow to bounce. Excellent defending first time clearance from him, and it's now Brighton's turn to try and counter Ferguson, the 18-year-old. Got his first senior goal at the weekend against Arsenal. Looked to be moving a little gingerly there, but he's regained his composure, and Brighton having their first bit of possession of the game. We played 8 minutes, and so far it's just Sanchez in the visiting goal that's been worked. Dunk crosses the halfway line, centre circle, short sleeve, voluminous yellow boots, finds Veltman, one of the 4 changes made by the Italian head coach. And Everton again forcing the Seasiders backwards. And it comes off once again. Tarkowski slides in. Davies looking for Calvert-Lewin, hangs up the cross. Colwell keeps his eyes on it. Header cleared to McNeil on the edge of the box, trying to create the space, surrounded by fluorescent orange shirts. And here come Brighton. Matoma countering over the far left-hand side. Cody's trying to slow him in his tracks. Japanese cuts in field. Edge of the box to Sarmiento. He quickly offsets it to Caicedo. Right-hand side of the penalty area. Wants to shoot. Takes the shot. Mikolenko with the block. And it's with Veltman. First decent spell of the half for Brighton. Gross looking over the far side for Estupiñán. McNeil wins the initial header. But it's the Colombian who regains possession. Nice back heel to Matoma in front of the away fans. Sends in the cross, diving header clear by Tarkowski. Much better from Brighton, Paul.
Yeah, this is the first bit of sustained possession that they've actually had. Everton have started the game so well, pressing high, snapping at the heels, and Brighton have struggled to get into the game. They're just enjoying keeping the ball for a little bit. The thing that you see now with Brighton on the ball, Everton will press, they will snap, and they're putting men high to try and put the high press on, but they are vulnerable to the counter-attack, and we've just seen Brighton getting behind them.
Gay goes down, wanting the foul, but RJ Marinere crosses his hands to say no foul march. Right hand side of the penalty area, beats Mikolenko, stands up the cross to the back post, free header for Matoma, and he sends it into the Park End stand. Big opportunity which the Japanese international couldn't take.
What a chance, free header, 4 yards out from goal at the far post. Should have scored. I don't know how Matoma's missed that. He just comes in round the back. Patterson doesn't know he's there. Great run down the right hand side, ball stood up, Patterson gets sucked in, Matoma 5 yards out on the angle, has to at least hit the target, but for me, Tom, he has to score.
0-0, chances at both ends. Sanchez still the only goalkeeper to make a save, but arguably the best opportunity moments ago falling to Brighton. Reminder, obviously there are 3 kickoffs here at 7:45. Over on 5 Live, Arsenal 0, Newcastle 0, and then still Leicester 0, Fulham 0. No goals in the Premier League so far this evening. Sanchez just outside his own 6-yard box, sends a dangerous side-footed pass out, which Gay looked to try and latch on, but Brighton persist with this possession-based tactic, and Iwobi wins back possession for Everton, but it's short-lived because there was a foul committed. Dangerous game from Brighton here.
This is going to be a really, really interesting game to watch how this unfolds, because Brighton, we know they will want to play out from the back, and Everton are pushing 4, 5, 6 bodies high at times. They've got McNeil out on the right-hand side, they've got Damari Gray out on the left-hand side, and then Tom Davis joins them. They go into a high press with 5 of them. All it takes is for Brighton with one ball misses out the press, but Everton are actually snapping at the heels, and they're winning this game at the moment. But as we've seen on occasions, if Brighton break the press, they're in behind Everton.
Colwell strides forward, looking for Ferguson, the teenager leading the line. Great testament to what they feel about his hopes at the club, the young Irish under-21 international, getting his first Premier League start, and Estepinán does well. The Ecuadorian with his short sleeves and gloves, which is always a controversial combination for me, but he's done well, wins a foul halfway into the Everton half set piece, Paul Robinson.
Yeah, surprised with Ferguson's selection tonight. Like you quite rightly say, it shows what the manager and what the club think of him and what the expectations are. Whether that Trossard's carrying a knock or not, we don't know. But he's been excellent this season, Trossard. I watched him away at Manchester City, and I thought he led the line very, very well there. But Brighton here, free kick, 35 yards out, really dangerous position, loading the edge of that Everton box up.
No Danny Welbeck, he's still sidelined. So it is the 18-year-old with, I wouldn't say the sole goal-scoring responsibilities, but he's leading the line. Gross, right-footed, floats in the cross to the back post. Tarkowski wins the header, sends it out to this far side in front of the main stand for a Brighton throw. 12.5 minutes played, still goalless here at Goodison. Everton, Brighton, elsewhere, no goals in the Premier League. Arsenal, Newcastle, Leicester, Fulham. This is BBC 5 Sports Extra, BBC Sounds, BBC Sport website and app. Tarkowski shanks the clearance. Cody helps out with a firm header clear, which will find touch just to the right of Frank Lampard's technical area. He says he wanted similar commitment that they saw at the Etihad. Of course, Lampard's former club as a player, with that impressive point, but you have to back them up when you play your home games, Paul Robinson, as you know too well. Fans expect 3 points tonight.
It's the hardest thing to get yourself up for games that you're expected to win. You know, playing against Manchester City, it's not hard to get yourself up for an away game there. I hate the saying free hit, but it is a free hit for a team like Everton going to the Etihad. But when you come here tonight, all of a sudden, people expect, the crowd expects, your fans expect, after a very, very good performance. So to continue on the back of that is going to be vitally important for them tonight. And they're playing against a very good Brighton team who seem to have settled into this game now.
After a strong opening, 7 or 8 minutes from the home side, it is the visitors who are seeing more of the ball. As Caicedo picks out Matoma, Patterson misjudged the bounce. A miscue from the Japanese, but he does capitalise it the second time. Was it a dummy, was it a feint? But it's a right-footed shot into the bottom corner. He disappears over the far side, slides in front of the away end. It's been coming, Everton 0, Brighton 1.
Well, it was so easy, wasn't it? A crossfield pass that Patterson just completely misjudges. Ends up at the feet of Mitoma, who cuts inside Patterson, takes Patterson out the game within one touch. Cody comes rushing across, and all Mitoma has to do is step inside him. All of a sudden he's one-on with Pickford, and he just slowly strokes the ball past Pickford. It was so comfortable. Patterson really does misjudge the ball when you're watching it on the replay. Cody overcommits. Mitoma 12 yards out, one-on-one, slots it in. Not against the run of play. They've come back into this game, all to do for Everton.
It's a lovely composed finish, sort of a slight dummy with the initial miscue maybe, but he followed it up neatly. That's a third Premier League goal from the man who joined from Royal Union, the Belgium outfit, over the summer, and quite impressively that's his fourth goal in his last 5 appearances in all competition. We questioned Trossard onto the bench. Well, it shows that Brighton have more than one goal-scoring option, and the Japanese is really settling to life well here in the Premier League, and his teammates are coming forward. They play down the line to Sarmiento. Tarkowski looking to slow him in his track, and he ends up in the advertising hoarding. That could have been nasty. Tarkowski walks away. Estupiñán is not too happy with that. Paul Robinson, what's your thoughts?
There's certainly been a change in atmosphere here at Goodison Park all of a sudden. Talked about the performance at Manchester City. All of a sudden with that goal going in there really has been a quietening of the crowd. I think Brighton seem on top. Everton all of a sudden are not pressing as high, not pressing as hard, and struggling to get hold of the ball at the moment, in all honesty.
So the only goal in the Premier League action so far on this Tuesday evening is here with myself, Tom Gale and Paul Robinson. 5 Sports Extra, BBC Sounds, BBC Sport website and app, where it is Everton 0, Brighton 1. Mitoma with the goal that has the visitors in front. Mikolenko in the left back portion of the field plays it down the line to Gray, still in the Everton half. Davies floated over to Cody. Cody under pressure, chests it well. Second touch, the layout out wide to Patterson. The Scot driving forward, trying to make amends for his initial error that led to the opportunity for the Japanese. Of course, he didn't put it on a plate, but it did create the space for him to drive into. Wanted a free kick, and Davies comes in late there on Caicedo. Andre Mariner points to Tom Davies and says, I saw that, we'll have a word later. Play continues. Brighton coming forward. Estupiñán trying to play in Ferguson, and Andre Mariner just having a word to the Brighton captain Lewis Dunk, just to say, I'm going to deal with this when there's a break in play, because that was needless from Tom Davies. Yeah,
it was needless, and just a little bit of frustration creeping in, because I think Everton started this game so well, and Brighton have found it very easy to puncture through this midfield and defence. Everton are committing so many bodies forward to the high press, and when it works it looks good, but 1 or 2 passes there, all of a sudden Brighton are in behind them, and Everton look like they're in trouble.
1 win in their last 9. A lot of pressure on manager Frank Lampard. How can his team respond in the first half? Iwobi, we're in the 18th minute. They trail by 1-0. Gay. McNeil, far side. Cuts infield, tracked by Sarmiento, but McNeil does well. Space for Tarkowski to bring Everton forward. Gray, far left-hand side, towards the Gladys Street end. Cuts in field on his right foot, checks to his left, sends in the low cross, which Veltman puts behind for another Everton corner.
He looks lively tonight, Demarai Gray, when he gets the ball. Just been starved the service a little bit. When Everton are in possession, Demarai Gray pressing high down the left, McNeil high down the right, and that's where Everton are going to get the joy tonight, cutting in from the flanks.
It is Demarai Gray, the set-piece man for Everton, who wanders over to the far left-hand side as myself and Paul Robinson sit here in the main stands. His side trailing. Those who can are all standing in the Gladys Street, doing their bit to try and suck the ball. Corner sent in. Sanchez claims it the second time of asking the Spaniard, under pressure from Calvert-Lewin. Away from home, Paul Robinson. Certainly Robert Sanchez is ticking every single box in this opening 20 minutes or so.
Difficult for him tonight as well. The weather, it's pouring, it's not easy, and a lot of goalkeepers you'd see there, you make the decision to come off your line, you'd find them punching, but he's come out and comfortably caught 2 great crosses.
Brighton again persist with this sideway pass from the goal kick, which invites the Everton press. And they haven't looked at all convincing trying to break it, and they again lose possession deep in their own half. Gay with a flick header back towards the halfway line for Tarkowski in the centre circle. Crowd trying to get behind Everton, who are trailing. That's the only goal so far this evening in the Premier League. Brighton 1-0 up here at Everton. 0-0 Arsenal Newcastle, likewise Leicester Fulham. Here comes Damari Gray, left hand side of the penalty area. Veltman doesn't want to go anywhere near him. Cross is blocked by March, and March uses good strength to push aside the Everton number 11, and Estupiñán is now racing forward, the Ecuadorian. Pace to burn, goes left to the goal scorer, Matoma, left hand side of the penalty area. Flicks up off Patterson, Ferguson with a low shot off the post! Pickford was beaten.
What a strike that was.
And in a matter of minutes, Brighton so close to doubling their advantage. Even Ferguson, low strike, going into the bottom corner. Only the frame of the goal denies the visitors from going 2-0 up.
Brilliant half volley by the youngster Ferguson there. Matoma again causing all kinds of problems down Everton's right hand side. Just cuts inside Patterson, whips the ball in, lands just in front of Ferguson on the half volley, wraps his left foot round it, beats Jordan Pickford, all ends up just a foot at the post, stops Brighton from going 2-0 up. But that again proves the point. Everton had the ball on the edge of Brighton's 18-yard box. Everton committed so many men forward. 2 passes, Brighton had a strike on goal.
Everton 0, Brighton 1. Everton have only come from behind to win once so far this season. That was against rock bottom Southampton. Patterson's cross is well defended by Colwill. Estupiñán again takes a touch in his own area, gives it to Gross under pressure. It's back to the Ecuadorian. The fans don't like this. They don't want Everton to be embarrassed on the home turf, but Brighton are trying to do that by playing out from the back. Ferguson's fouled in his own half on the lip of the centre circle. Brighton will use the time just to slow things down. Can you understand the fans' frustration, Paul?
You can, yeah, because Brighton are sticking with the way that they play. They make no apologies for it. They play out short from the back. They'll try and play around you. Everton will put the high press on, and when the high press doesn't work, like we've said so many times already, 21 minutes into the game, Brighton have been able to pick Everton apart so comfortably. 1 with a goal, 2 with a shot against the post, and it's just when this press doesn't work, they look so susceptible to the counter-attack. But don't get me wrong, when the press works, it looks very good. High press, high tempo, and the crowd are right behind them. But when they don't, they look so vulnerable.
Brighton have only kept 1 clean sheet in their last 12 games, all under Roberto De Zerbi. They are a front foot team, love the counter, but they are inviting Everton pressure, which will offer encouragement, but scant consolation so far for the Goodison faithful, because they are currently trailing by a single goal scored by the Japanese international Matoma. Gross over that far left-hand side, close to the corner flag, trying to float in the cross, have to settle for a throw.
They're getting so much joy down their left-hand side, Brighton, with Matoma and Estupiñán joining in, running at Patterson. That's where most of their successes come from tonight.
Still over the left-hand side. Gross under pressure, can't find a teammate, trying to pick out Calvert-Lewin. Calvert-Lewin in a wrestling match with Caicedo, which Caicedo wins. Back from suspension, started every single Premier League game this season. A man that both Graham Potter and De Zerbi rely on. The heart of that Brighton midfield, but it's Everton in possession. We played 22 and a half minutes. 0-1. 5 Sports Extra, BBC Sounds, BBC Sport website. Crowd don't like it when Iwobi goes backwards. We didn't have anything on in front of him.
20 minutes in and already the atmosphere's turning a little bit. Expected the atmosphere to be very good after the decent draw at Manchester City, and all of a sudden the fans are not happy. Everton are not playing particularly well. Just see an incident there. Ferguson just ran into Tarkowski. Tarkowski played the ball into midfield into Davis, and Ferguson just let him know he was there. Normally it's the other way around with the centre half and the strikers.
We've seen all the aspects of the 18-year-old's game. He's got great technical ability, but he's not afraid to put himself about. Big night for him and his family, and so far he's going to be on the winning side, and he was so close to his second ever professional goal. Just the frame of Jordan Pickford's goal at the Park End denying him from doubling Brighton's current lead of 0-1. It's the only goal so far in the Premier League. 0-0 Arsenal Newcastle, Leicester Fulham. Tarkowski feeds Gray, 35 yards from the Brighton goal, has to bypass the referee, drifts over to the right hand side. Gay to Patterson, meet 1-2. Foul is it? Andre Mariner says play on Sorrento. Dispossessed Gay, who remains on the deck. Caicedo drives forward, he's under pressure from Mykolenko again, commits the foul, takes on the strike! Ferguson from 25 yards, let's rip. And those boos will tell you that Everton fans are fearing the worst here, because Brighton have the tails up, Paul Robinson.
Yeah, that looked a foul to me on Gray, deep in the Brighton half. Brighton won the ball back and it looked like a foul. They didn't get it, but again, 2 passes and Brighton are in. They're having a strike on goal. Ferguson hits the ball 25 yards, just sails over Pickford's bar, but it's just worrying how little time it takes Brighton to get from back to front at the moment for Everton.
I don't think Pickford's had a save to make so far, but certainly on 2 opportunities from even Ferguson, he was helped out by the post, and there the young Irishman was just inches away from another potential stunning goal here at Goodison Park. Right hand side, Everton, edge of the box, McNeil floats in the cross looking for Calvert-Lewin, and it was plucked out of the sky. The slight pause there was the heart and mouth moment, because it could have nestled to a royal blue shirt. Thankfully for Sanchez, it's Lewis Dunk who was closest by, but Everton are continuing to ask questions. They just need someone to put the ball in the back of the net, Paul Robinson.
Tom, that's brilliant by Sanchez again. It's difficult to describe, but I'll do my best to do it, to put pictures into words. So McNeil's got the ball in the corner of the right hand side of the edge of the 18-yard box. He's floated it into Calvert-Lewin's head. Sanchez has gone full stretch and made a top corner save off Calvert-Lewin's head.
Matoma to the byline, gets past Patterson and tries to beat Pickford at his near post. And Pickford's not happy with his team's defending. I know this is an aspect of Jordan Pickford's game. Is it really necessary? But he loves berating his defenders. But as you said, rightfully, Paul, once again, down the left, Everton have no answers for Matoma.
Listen, he can berate his defenders all he wants. He's well within his rights tonight. Patterson has been so exposed. Matoma's taken advantage of that. Iwobi's not tracking back. McNeil's given no cover. That right hand side for Everton is becoming a real problem. The left hand side for Brighton, they're getting so much joy down that side.
Corner to Brighton over the far side in front of their fans. Gross sends it in. Ferguson's closest, but it beats everyone and will go out harmlessly for an Everton goal kick. If you're Frank Lampard, you see that issue. Obviously it's very early on and he doesn't really want to make a substitution change. What can he do out there to reduce the impact the Japanese is having over there?
He hasn't got the players to do it, because he's playing Iwobi, Gay and Davis in midfield as a 3, McNeil and Graham behind Calvert-Lewin. Unless he drops Gay into the left hand side of midfield and puts Iwobi down as a right hand side midfielder, Patterson's going to be exposed. He did that against Manchester City. He packed the midfield with a 5 almost, and you know, at times they did extremely well against City, but tonight with just a 3 in midfield, both fullbacks have been really exposed.
27th minute, still Brighton through Matoma leading. Calvert-Lewin goes down far too easily. Sorrento trying to counter. Gay nips in, and legally so according to referee Andre Marinette. Brighton free kick as the right of Jordan Pickford's goal. As we look on, March wants to take it quickly. Mykolenko stops him from doing that. Andre Mariner says rolling ball.
I'm sorry,
Everton are rattled here.
The referee can't do that. He's done it twice tonight, Andre Mariner. There's 2 fouls very similar. There's one on Calvert-Lewin that he doesn't give, and then the Brighton foul, he gives the foul on Sarmiento within 5 seconds of each other, and he did it previously on Idrissa Gueye as well. And I'm sorry, if he's not going to give the first one, you can't give the second one. There's 2 very, very similar incidents there that the referees had double standards.
There has been a goal elsewhere. Fulham are 1-0 up away at Leicester. Any fantasy football enthusiasts out there? Alexandra Mitrovic once again on the score sheet, and Willian. I ain't gonna lie, I was not surprised that this Willian has turned up at Fulham, but boy is he proving me wrong, along with many. But that's elsewhere. In front of myself, Tom Gale and Paul Robinson on 5 Sports Extra, BBC Sounds, BBC Sport website. Everton 0, Brighton 1. Brighton free kick 25 yards from goal to the right of the 18-yard box. March with the strike, good power. Wolves does its job. Estupiñán tries to take on a strike. Gade as well over that far side. Dunk goes all the way back to Sanchez as Brighton keep possession. Caicedo again back to his goalkeeper, who's now retreated to the penalty spot. Spaniard looks up, trying to find March. March wins the header, flicks it infield. Ferguson, good control from the teenager. Poor touch from Gross though, but he wanted it more. Slid in front of Iwobi to keep Brighton moving forward. Pascal Gross, number 13, already scored a number of goals this season. He's 1 short of his best ever Premier League return. And he's pulling the strings for Brighton. Finds Estupiñán. Good first touch by the Ecuadorian over the far touchline. Comes in field to Matoma. Caicedo. Good spell. Caicedo goes down off the ball again. Referee Andre Mariner with a firm finger point says, I've seen that. Brighton won a free kick. Lewis Dunker's complaining, and I think he's not winning many fans on either side here, Paul Robinson. Referee Andre Mariner.
It's Alex Iwobi. I'm not surprised. He's fed up with chasing around. He's closing down on his own. He's been closing down 5, 6, 7 times. And he's got none of his team backing him up, so he just decides that he's going to kick Estupiñán over. You can understand why he's done it, because his team are just not backing him up. And you can hear in the background there the frustration of the Everton fans because they're not closing down as a group.
Brighton again attacking down the left-hand side. Win the throw. What is it? It's about 5.5, 6 hours at least if you're travelling up from Brighton on a Tuesday night, and they'll be very impressed with what they see from their side.
Yeah, they've been impressive all season. I was worried when the manager left and De Zerbi came in, but then I watched them first hand at Manchester City. I watched the team that he played. I watched the identity that they had, the performance they put in, and I've been really impressed with them this season. They've got a way of playing, they stick to that, and they're a very, very difficult team to beat.
Half an hour gone. Visitors leading by 1-0. Gray receives Pickford's clearance in his own half. Neat step over, invites the pressure, wins a throw. Crowd like that. When it's difficult like this, Paul, I'm sure you've played in atmospheres where the home fans feel, they feel as though they're more of a hindrance than a help. But is it a case of big players just need to be stand up and be counted?
Well, I think we've seen the atmosphere here. I think it went a long way to keeping them up last year. So I think the way that this crowd can get behind the team, if they show a little bit of impotence going forward, if they show a little bit of forward thinking, get a couple of chances, get this crowd behind them, it can be a real benefit to the team.
McNeil switches flanks. It's now over the left with Gray. Good first touch. Left-hand side of the penalty area. Goes past Beltman. Touch. Defender did well, slid in, another corner. The obvious outlet is Damari Gray, and he's a really threatening player when he's got his head up.
Yeah, he's got the beat of the Beltman on this side. Direct again by Everton, not afraid to go direct, long Tarkowski into Gray. As soon as he touches the ball, you know that he's got the beat of Beltman, goes around the outside of him. Last ditch challenge, another corner for Everton on this side. They're going to have to start compiling some pressure.
Everton in front of the Gladys Street, trailing by 1-0. Damari Gray, right-footed in swinger, flicks off the head of Tarkowski. You perhaps expect him to do better. It sails harmlessly wide for a Brighton goal kick. And once again in front of the Gladys Street, we've got the 2 centre-halves either side of the 6-yard box. We've got Gross on the penalty spot. Gross receives it. Iwobi presses. Colwell. Brighton do that a lot better than they have done all night, and they're moments away from being unleashed down the left-hand flank.
Tom, if I'd have done that when I played, I think the manager would have substituted me. We used to put it on the 6-yard line and kick it forwards as far as we can, not 3 yards to the left and then receive it back.
It's the modern game, Paul. It's the modern game.
Oh, how it's changed. I mean, if I'd have got caught doing a Cruyff turn on the edge of my 6-yard box, I don't think I'd have come out for the second half.
Don't forget, there's match of the day tomorrow evening, Wednesday night. Mark Chapman, Ian Wright. Forgive me, I've forgotten the other pundit, but they'll be rounding up all of the midweek Premier League action. And of course, across the BBC Sport website, 5 Sports Extra, where you can see me, myself and Paul Robinson, and 5 Live. We'll keep you updated with all those goals. There's of course the 8 PM kickoff this evening.
Brilliant again, Damari Gray gets the ball on this left-hand side, very direct, runs straight at Beltman, gets round him. Beltman, all he can do is bring him down. Everton got a dangerous free kick now midway through the Brighton half, but once again it's Damari Gray that's causing the problems for Everton.
Scored that wonder goal at the Etihads at the weekends. He's definitely the go-to man for Frank Lampard's side. Wins the free kick. Left-hand side of Sanchez's goal as we look towards a good 30-35 yards out, more towards the touchline. And Dwight McNeil's just removing the turf from his studs, those luminous lime green boots. Brought back into the starting lineup, left footer to the back post, and it evades everyone. Tarkowski's going to have to go some to keep that in. Estupiñán's going to let him run, and Tarkowski gives him a little shove. Nestles into the advertising hoardings, and again stony silence here at Goodison.
Another set play wasted by Everton though. They've had some good corners tonight, they've had free kicks in good positions. We've seen how important it is to teams like Brentford when you look at the way that they play, the organisation, the discipline that they've got with their set plays. Set plays are critical at both ends, and Everton have wasted every one that they've had so far tonight.
Estefinan puts his foot through it, gets plenty of height and distance, and Mikolenko's a sole Everton man in his own half. Goalkeeper aside, the Ukraine international retreats back to his left-hand position because the ball's over the right-hand side. Cody back to Pickford. Matoma's goal in the 14th minute separates the two sides. Tarkowski just gave a scalding look over his shoulder as there was a miscue from Pickford with the pass. It's that kind of evening so far for Everton. Really strong start to the game. Brighton settled, found their feet and scored an excellent goal. The only other goal so far in the Premier League in the 4 fixtures, because there was an 8 p.m. kickoff, Manchester United-Bournemouth. That's goalless. The only other goal in the Premier League was scored by Alexander Mitrovic. He's away with his Fulham teammates at Leicester. Same scoreline here, the away side leading by a 1-0.
Well, the last time we were together, we saw Leicester score 3 at Anfield, didn't we? So
did.
Don't rule out Leicester scoring.
Yeah. Out fast with an evening to remember at Anfield. One he'll look back on fondly. Iwobi, 30 yards out, sends it centre on. Damari Gray tries for the 1-2 with the Nigerian. He's behind him, but Everton do keep possession. It's with Idris again. Bypasses Ferguson. Comes out left to Mikolenko. He's got a fluorescent orange wall in front of him, so he has to come in field. Back to Iwobi. Who's so good at ball retention. Under pressure, takes it in tight areas. Always wants the ball. But Everton need to get it closer towards Robert Sanchez's goal, and that's what the groans will tell you. They want a bit more thrust from the side. Players switched by Iwobi. Patterson touched to set himself, floats in the cross, looking for the header of Calvert-Lewin. He got there, jumped too soon, couldn't get any power. It's a weak, tame header, but it's more encouraging. Yeah, that's much better from Everton point of view. Iwobi's playing a little bit more central, gets on the ball, switches it quickly to Patterson, brings it down, whips the ball into Calvert-Lewin. Those ones that we've seen him so many times just rise in between the centre halves. Couldn't get a great connection on it, but it's a lot better by Everton. You can hear the fans getting frustrated when Everton have got comfortable possession, but slow possession, allowing Brighton to get back into position when they're not able to break them down quick enough. For the first time this evening, Robert Sanchez goes direct from the goal kick, and it finds its way to Matoma, and Brighton make it stick. Short-lived though. Cody wins the ball back for Everton in the home side's half. Gray with a rare miscue from him puts Mikolenko under pressure, and he's fouled by Sarmiento, and it is an Everton free kick. Very impressive from Brighton, because this tactical fouling, they know how to manage a game. Then they know this atmosphere is difficult for the home side. They've got a clear game plan, and they know that if they invite Everton onto them, Everton are going to push bodies onto them, and they've got an opportunity to hit them on the break. The tactical fouls that they're doing, they know when to slow the game down. It's a very, very clear, clever game plan. Davies unleashes Calvert-Lewin wide left. There would have been a foul, but Andre Mariner continues to wave the advantage because Everton are in possession. Davies wastes it but is able to recover, floats in the ball to the back post. Patterson wins the header back across goal, but no one's gambling in a blue shirt. Brighton goal kick. Nobody in the box. Patterson gets a header at the far post, heads it back across the box, and Calvert-Lewin and Alexander Iwobi are not in the box, making late runs. Slightly better from Everton though in the last 2 or 3 minutes. A little bit more possession with intent, getting the ball out wide, Patterson's ball into the box, Calvert-Lewin getting his header in between the centre halves. The frustration is the slow possession, because Brighton are very, very well drilled. Out of possession, they've got the positions, they set very quickly, and whenever I have this slow ball retention, it's easy for Brighton to break them down. And again, now we see Brighton trying to play out from the back. 2 or 3 passes, Everton with a really high press on. Dwight McNeil doing excellently well this time. There was a slight break there as Caicedo just took a while to get to his feet. A lot of 2 or 3. Sarmiento, one of the Brighton players, who wandered over towards De Zerbi for a few words of instruction from the backup coaching team as well. The flipboard pad was out with the markers, just trying to tweak things, because at the moment Everton are enjoying their best spell in a long while. McNeil, far right hand side, battling with Caicedo. Patterson goes over there to help him out, and it is an Everton throw. Awarded by the assistant, Natalie Aspinall, over that far side. Patterson with the throw. We have got 6.5 minutes of normal time remaining in the first half. Everton 0, Brighton 1. 5 Sports Extra, BBC Sounds, BBC Sport website and app. Tarkowski retreats back into his own half, centre circle, finds Gay. Turns, 180. Flicks it out wide, lovely ball to Patterson. Scott thought about the first time cross, does take it in, deflects off. Calvert-Lewin wins the knockdown header. Caicedo picks up the scraps for Brighton, unleashes Matoma, does he? Asking too much of the Japanese. Cody slides in. Everton continue to ask questions. McNeil floats in the cross towards Calvert-Lewin, good hang time, but Dunk did a really good job. Whoa! Robert Sanchez trying to prevent a corner. Looked to maybe have handled the ball outside his own 18-yard box there.
I think the referee's taken the easy way out there, the referee, because Robert Sanchez to me looked like he prevented a corner. Dwight McNeil just drifts it into the far post. Calvert-Lewin gets a header alongside Dunk. It looks like it's gone out for a corner. Sanchez looks to have kept it in, but then carries the ball outside the box. It looks to me the referee's taken the easy way out and given the corner and not had to deal with the handball situation.
Gray takes the corner to the back post. It's won by an Everton head. McNeil will keep it live, tries to shoot, it's blocked behind. Another corner over the opposite side.
Better from Everton, better spell of possession. Crowd starting to get behind them, real intent now. Couple of corners in quick succession. Last 5 minutes of this half, they need to keep this up. I think the key is moving the ball quicker. They move the ball quicker, they get the ball wider, quicker into the box, and that's how they've got in behind this Brighton side.
Left-footed over the opposite side from McNeil towards the goalkeeper. Too easy. Sanchez using all his stature, plucks it out of the air and unleashes it wide right to Pascal Gross. Gross looks down the line, back to March, takes contact behind from Mikolenko. Play continues. Caicedo in the Brighton half, few yards shy of the halfway line. Sorrento. Caicedo ushering his teammate back towards him, opts to go left to Colwell. The goal scorer, Matoma. Estupiñán plays it down the line. Davis read that well. It's back with Cody, more in the right back position of the Everton half. Rolls it across to Tarkowski. Cody. We've got 4 minutes of normal time remaining. Crowd wanting Everton to come forward more, be braver. Davis is dispossessed, does well though, the academy graduate, wins back possession.
You see, that's much better from Everton. They've put Tom Davis in a wider right-hand side role in front of Patterson, and they've stopped that flow of traffic coming down the Brighton left. Davis is just in front of Patterson. Iwobi's tucked in the middle now, and they've got more of a 4-4-2 look about them of Everton now.
Trying to float the ball in behind. Calvert-Lewin, the willing runner, puts the Brighton defender under pressure. Everton throw with the far side. 41.5 minutes played. Everton still trailing. McNeil tries to unleash Mikolenko. Crowd wanting handball from March. Play continues. Tarkowski plays it wrong, direct down the middle. Calvert-Lewin was coming back from an offside position. Further groans of frustration from the home fans. Sanchez using all the time available to just edge towards his 18-yard box and then side foot past to Colwell. Chelsea Loney comes forward, switches flanks, loads of space here for Solly March. Mikolenko's switched off. March comes in field onto his left foot, back to Caicedo, 30 yards from goal, centre on in the Everton half. Back to his captain Dunk. Veltman back to the Brighton captain, short sleeves, got that right sleeve tattoo, and so far seen a very impressive performance from an away perspective, Paul Robinson.
Very much so. Everton have done a lot of work. I was just looking at Calvert-Lewin, Iwobi there, Gay in the middle of the field. They look tired already, but I'm thinking they've spent a lot of time without the ball this half. They haven't had a comfortable possession in the final third. They've spent a lot of time chasing. Yes, you can see they've worked on the press, but they've spent a lot of this half pressing Brighton. Brighton have had comfortable possession at times. Saying that, they've just lost it in a really dangerous area.
Colwell gives back possession to Everton. Iwobi tried to drive forwards, but he couldn't get away from the defensive advances of two Brighton players. There has been another goal in the Premier League. It's been at Old Trafford. Manchester United 1, Bournemouth 0. Casemiro, the Brazilian, continues to impress. He's got the goal of the game. So the only Premier League game that is goalless is arguably the most anticipated. It's that the summit of the table clash, which is Arsenal 0-0 against Newcastle. That's live on BBC 5 Live, but of course myself and Paul Robinson want you to stay here with us on 5 Sports Extra, BBC Sounds. The crowd are groaning because Matoma's down on the edge of the box. Pickford's encouraging Patterson to race forwards. The Japanese looks in quite a bit of discomfort. Of course, course, from a Brighton perspective, they want the ball kicked out. Everton happy to continue. Referee Andre Mariner has the power to intervene. Ferguson bumps Gay, the 18-year-old, stopping the game himself. And he's being confronted by 3 Everton players before Lewis Dunk. I thought it's going to take a while. Ferguson receives his first yellow card in senior football. And should it have even got to that, Paul Robinson? Should Andre Mariner have already stopped playing?
I think Mariner's let far too much stuff go tonight, and then he gives silly free kicks. I mean, Ferguson rightly booked there. I mean, it was a mindless challenge from him, and it was in a pointless area. Matoma obviously in the box, he's injured. I'm not so sure how injured he is, but if the referee's going to let play go, he has to be consistent. He can't give free kicks for some and not for others. We've seen this more tolerant leniency line, if you like, and at times the referee's allowed that, and he's allowed play to go on, and then he'll give a free kick that isn't in line with his other decisions. I think he's been inconsistent with his decisions tonight, the referee, which has caused that unrest.
Premier League referee since 2005, Andre Mariner. It's the first time he's officiated Brighton this season. He's took charge of 2 Everton games, and the Everton fans just reminding Matoma that he does actually need to go off over that far side before he can rejoin the action. And the 4th official, David Webb, indicates there will be a minimum of 2 added minutes here in the first half. Matoma, the goal scorer, is off over that far side, so the visitors down to 10, but a goal to the goods. Mikolenko with the free kick. Needs to go into the box. That's certainly the opinion of all the Everton fans inside here. Sent in by the man from Ukraine, but can't beat the first defender at the edge of the 18-yard box, and Gay is fouled once again. Brighton back up to their full allocation as boos greet the return of the goal scorer in the 14th minute, Matoma, and that is the difference as we head towards the break. We've played there or thereabouts 1 of the minimum 2 to be added on in stoppage time. Gay's free kick directed towards Tarkowski, headed clear by Brighton, picked up on the right hand side by Patterson, dwelled on it too long. March working incredibly hard, and Brighton almost find their way out of trouble. Well, assistant referee Natalie Aspinall over that far side sees her decision reversed by Andre Mariner. She awarded a Brighton throw. Referee overrules his teammates, and Everton have one last opportunity to try and change the current scoreline, which sees them trailing by 1-0. Gray, left hand side of the penalty area. Veltman and Gross double team, bypasses them both, goes low to the near post. Sanchez spills it, comes back out to Gray. No, Iwobi with poor execution, can't pick out his teammate. Gay has to go back to his goalkeeper Pickford. According to my watch, we're into the final 10 seconds of the minimum 2 to be added on here in the first half. Gay, infield to Iwobi, 180 turn. He's retreating backwards though, being forced back by Brighton. Tarkowski switches play to the far right hand side. Estupiñán watches it the whole way. Header into Colwell, who goes back to his goalkeeper in front of Calvert-Lewin. Sanchez under pressure, finds the stands.
Really good burst again by Demarai Gray on his left hand side. Took 2 players out of the game, cutting on his right foot, made it really difficult for Robert Sanchez, who again does well. But Everton starting to come back into this, but just lacking that quality in the final third, almost afraid to play that final pass in favour of keeping possession.
And that is the final bit of action in the first half. A few boos, largely groans of frustration. Matoma's goal in the 14th minute, cutting infield after Patterson misjudged the fly to the ball. He nestled home his 3rd Premier League goal of the season, which means at half-time it's Everton 0, Brighton 1. I'm alongside the former England goalkeeper Paul Robinson. Paul, what have you made of that?
Everton look like a team out of confidence, afraid to make that final pass, that final decision in the final third. They're pressing high, but it's not taking a lot to break that press down. It was an excellent away performance by Brighton, very structured, hit Everton on the counter-attack, and of course Frank, a lot of problems. He had to change formation, change that right-hand side, where the left-hand side of Brighton's where they've been getting a lot of joy.
So half-time here at Goodison, Everton 0, Brighton 1. We'll be back with second half commentary here on 5 Sports Extra, BBC Sounds and the BBC Sport website. But now we're going to transfer over to 5 Live to round up the half-times in the 7:45 kickoffs. Here's Kelly Cates.
Sounds silly, and it shouldn't be special, dispensation for players when it's raining or windy, but the speed of this game, how it's been played and the conditions do come into play, and I think just not allow the game to go out of control with reckless tackles, but just be a little bit more. I don't think he's far wrong, though. I wouldn't start jumping on him and saying he's had an absolute nightmare. But a couple of those challenges, maybe he just made a bit of a rod for his own back.
And it did just start to get a little bit fiery towards the end. But the energy in that first half, particularly at the start from Arsenal, and I heard you saying at the beginning, you could tell the intensity. This is something that they're fighting for. They can see that 10-point gap, and that's what they're focusing on.
Oh, it's absolutely bubbling here. It really is, in terms of that. It's sometimes bubbling over the top. And I think that you'd probably see a more polished performance if they just steady that down a little bit. I love the fact they feel that way. It's a group of players, a lot of young players in this situation, a young manager, and you can tell the energy's there. There's absolutely no question. In the crowd, supporters are enjoying it. They're getting on every decision. They're trying to impact the game. But that composure, that quality that Arsenal have shown, they need a little bit more of that, and I think it will come if they just settle down in this second half.
There have been a couple of chances for Newcastle. How much of a threat do you think they've posed?
Yeah, I think they've posed a decent threat. I'm more impressed with how they've coped at the back and how the attacking from wide areas, how they've defended those 1v1s. The two centre-backs, Shah and Botman, have been solid. I think Nketiah's played well. There's been a lot of good stuff. There's a lot to look at, and it's been a really entertaining first half. But I think it's only one shot on target from either team. Neither's really troubled the goalkeeper. So that's the one part of the game that's missing, is just that quality or the creative, that final pass to create a real goal-scoring opportunity.
Matthew Upson and Ian Dennis are at the Emirates for a commentary match this evening. It's Arsenal against Newcastle. 4 Premier League matches, 3 of them, including Arsenal-Newcastle, 7:45 kickoffs. 8 o'clock kickoff at Old Trafford, where Manchester United lead Bournemouth 1-0. Will Perry.
Just under 10 minutes to the break here, Kelly, and Manchester United have a free kick in a very dangerous position. It's on the edge of the D, just to the right, after Casemiro was fouled by Billing on the edge of the box, and it looks like it's going to be Christian Eriksen who's going to try and bend this one over the wall. Rashford stood there as well just before that, a ball into the box, into the 6-yard box where Rashford was lurking. Excellent bit of defending from Kelly, who managed to clear it, albeit unorthodoxly. Michael Salisbury blows the whistle. Still, we don't know whether it'll be Rashford or Eriksen who takes it. They're clustered next to this ball as we wait for them to have a shot at goal. Here's Eriksen, right-footed, hits the top of the Bournemouth wall, out for a corner. 1-0 United.
Will, thank you very much for that. Will Perry will bring us updates on that. The half-time whistle has gone at Goodison Park. Chris Coles.
A new year, but the same old Everton problems. Everton 0, Brighton 1. It's a deserved advantage for the visitors, given to them by Kaoru Mitoma, the Japanese international's 4th of the season, capitalising on Nathan Patterson's misjudgment to calmly finish into the bottom corner. Further opportunities too, the best for Evan Ferguson, the 18-year-old on his first start, hitting a post after his smart left-foot volley. Excellent technique. He was very unlucky. Roberto De Zerbi made 4 changes to this side. It surprised many, but they remain very, very fluid. Everton started well. Crowd behind them. Alex Iwobi's shot well saved by Robert Sanchez. But that's really been as good as it got for Everton. Dominic Calvert-Lewin looks isolated. The fans are getting frustrated. A lot of their anger has been directed at the referee Andre Mariner, who's let an awful lot go. But all the optimism from that excellent draw at Manchester City has evaporated after that first 45 minutes, which sees Brighton have that 1-goal lead. Everton 0, Brighton 1.
Chris, often you get the sort of flatness after the opposition have scored within the home crowd, but the Everton fans, you're saying, are getting frustrated with this performance, because although they got the 1-0 draw against Manchester City, that wasn't at home in front of their own fans, and this is what they've seen before the break for the World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. Their home form in particular has really cost them this season. They've not lost 3 in a row at home in 2 years, and that is what's facing them here tonight. When they went behind, Kelly, you didn't get the sense that the fans had lost faith in the players. The support by and large has been very good towards the players. You sense the anger has come not necessarily at Frank Lampard, but those above Frank Lampard in the Everton hierarchy. They're giving the players the support. There were boos at half-time. I fancy though more towards the referee and not necessarily the performance of the players, but Frank Lampard has decisions to make at half-time. He does have firepower on the bench. He does have the likes of Neil Maupay, formerly of Brighton and Hove Albion. Ellis Sims has just been recalled from a loan spell at Sunderland. Yes, he was scoring in the Championship. It's a different level in the Premier League. The fans have not lost faith in the players, but they just need to see an awful lot more from their team, especially going forward. And the worry is Brighton look assured, as they have done all season. They play with such brilliant fluidity whenever they go forward. Karim Mitoma looks dangerous. He's got his goal. Evan Ferguson looks really bright, 18 years of age, his first start. As the cliche goes, Kelly, the next 10-15 minutes, or certainly the first 10-15 minutes after the break, the next goal is absolutely massive.
Chris, thank you very much. Chris Coles will bring us news of any goals that go in at Goodison when the second half does get underway. Half-time meanwhile at the King Power, it's Leicester against Fulham. Lee Blakeman.
Interesting that we were just talking about the fans there at Everton, because Leicester booed off, Kelly. Leicester 0, Fulham 1. Mitrovic with the goal that separates the two teams here. Willian's ball in. Mitrovic allowed far too much time and space to take a touch and then drill it hard and low past Danny Ward. Since then, Leicester have had chances, some big chances. Perez firing over, unmarked at the back post, 6 yards out, cleared the crossbar, an all Brighton ball across the face of goal. All it needed was a faint touch. Didn't get one and went all the way through, and Castagna headed narrowly wide at the end of the half. Leicester with more injury problems as well. Daka missed tonight's game because of injury. Dewsbury Hall was injured in the warm-up. Sumari went off injured early on, which is why Albrighton is on at the moment. Leicester heading for a third straight defeat. Fulham a third straight win, because at half-time it's Leicester 0, Fulham 1.
Lee, as you're saying though, the crowd are getting frustrated, but there have been chances for Leicester.
Oh, loads of them. The one in particular, Kelly, that I just can't get past is the one from Perez. Leicester did everything right. They've looked brilliant in the build-up. From midfield until they've got to the final third, they've looked superb on occasions tonight. Tielemans out wide, ball in, the perfect cross. Perez in the perfect position, nobody around him at the back post. We were all just waiting for the net to bulge here, and he cleared the crossbar by such a distance. I think the ball nearly landed in Nottingham. An awful miss from Perez. But the fans getting restless here. You just wonder what it's going to take for them to turn. They've been in worrying positions before. I remember doing a game on a Monday night for 5 Live earlier this season, the big East Midlands derby between Leicester and Nottingham Forest. Leicester under massive pressure that night had the answers and ran out 4-0 winners. At the moment, with all the injury problems that Leicester have, you wonder if they've got enough firepower to come up with more of those answers, because they certainly need them at the moment.
Yeah, and they're only 3 points above Nottingham Forest in the Premier League table as things stand. Lee, thank you very much for that. So, just to recap, at half-time, Leicester trailing by a 1-0 at home to Fulham. Everton also 1-0 down at home to Brighton. Our commentary matches at the Emirates, where Arsenal and Newcastle are drawing 0-0, and what's a pretty fiery encounter. Back there for the second half very shortly, and we'll bring you the half-time report of Manchester United against Bournemouth, with United leading by a 0-0. That one was an 8 o'clock kickoff, so just approaching half-time in that one. We'll bring you all the very latest half-time scores in just a second, and we're also saying happy birthday to Sports Report, the iconic show first broadcast 75 years ago today. If you missed last night's special programme celebrating the show, it's now available as a podcast. Just head over to BBC Sounds and search for 75 years of Sports Report. Now, though, it's time for the BBC News with Jill Mackenzie.
Listen on BBC Sounds. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Thank you. Good evening. The government says it's doing everything possible to resolve pressures on NHS services after renewed criticism about long waits for emergency care. Health leaders say the current problems are down to long-term staffing and funding issues, not just the pandemic. Our deputy political editor is Vicky Young.
There are lots of issues which are outside of the government's control, but I think the problem is, for the Conservative Party having been in power for 12 years, it is difficult for them to avoid at least some of the blame for what is going on. And the danger, of course, is that this winter crisis goes on to become a spring crisis, and that actually there end up being longer term problems that need to be dealt with.
Only a fifth of trains have been running in England, Scotland and Wales today, with the same expected tomorrow. RMT union members are staging a 48-hour strike over pay and conditions. They'll walk out again on Friday and Saturday. The Transport Secretary Mark Harper says the union should get back to negotiations, but the RMT has accused the government of blocking a deal. Hospitality UK says the disruption caused by the rail strikes will cost the industry £2.5 billion. Kate Nichols is its CEO.
In the run-up to Christmas, it was down 29% on 2019 levels and as much as 49 to 59% in the city centres that were particularly badly affected by train strikes. The industry is incredibly frustrated that this has been dragging on for 8 months. We've had a long-term impact on sales, but also there's a long-term impact on consumer confidence and willingness to book going forward.
A woman who lied to police, claiming she'd been groomed and exploited by an Asian gang, has been found guilty of perverting the course of justice. 22-year-old Eleanor Williams from Barrow-in-Furness falsely accused some real people and made up other supposed abusers. And Pelé has been laid to rest at a private family ceremony. Thousands of mourners lined the streets of the Brazilian city of Santos to watch his funeral procession earlier.
On BBC iPlayer.
Well, the last few years all seemed a bit easier somehow, hasn't it? We move on, don't we?
Catherine Kaywood is back, and so is an old enemy.
Got some intel for you from the prison. You're not going to like it.
Tommy Lee Royce.
How do?
He's a narcissist. He's a psychopath. He's using you, and you're letting him.
I get it's complicated, but it's my dad.
The final series of Happy Valley.
What I'd like is for you and me to spend some time together.
Continues on BBC iPlayer.
This is 5 Live Sport with Kelly Cates.
Back to the Emirates very shortly for the second half of Arsenal against Newcastle. No goals, but 5 yellow cards in the first half of that one. Second half coming up, and they're just approaching half-time at Old Trafford. Man United against Bournemouth. Will Perry.
Yeah, we're in added time. Manchester United 1, Bournemouth 0. Casemiro's volley midway through the first half, the difference, but Senesi slipped as he challenged Van der Beek, clattering into the Dutchman's right knee, wriggling in pain for a couple of minutes. You could really see the agony on his face. He got back to his feet, couldn't continue. He's limped down the tunnel, replaced by Garnacho just before the break. As it stands, Manchester United level on points with third place Newcastle. Manchester United 1, Bournemouth 0.
Will, thank you very much. As soon as the half-time whistle goes, we will let you know in that match. We're also across all this evening's Premier League action. Everton trailing 1-0 at home to Brighton. Leicester 1-0 down at home to Fulham. Regular updates from there, but our commentary match is Arsenal against Newcastle at the Emirates. Matthew Upson and Ian Dennis are there. Matt, we talked about the chances that Arsenal have created in that first half, and I know you were really impressed with that Newcastle defence. That's now a clean sheet in the first half in their last 14 Premier League games, and while we always focus on their attacking talent, it's built on a really solid defence.
It's an amazing record, isn't it, to be honest? I mean, that is a brilliant record for the goalkeeper, centre-backs, full-backs, and for the whole team. It's a real team effort, but I'm so impressed with how solid Botman and Shara and Dan Burn. He's got a tricky evening against Saka, 1v1s in those wide areas, and he just manages to cope well enough. Whether or not we'll see in this second half Saka hit another gear and maybe be the difference, but so far they've done excellent.
So the managers making their way out to the dugouts. The players are pretty much set for the second half at the Emirates. Taking you through it, Matt and Ian Dennis.
Have you noticed, Matt, that the last time we saw Lady Kelly was in the desert? It was nice and warm and not ventured out of the studio tonight.
I know.
Yeah.
She used to enjoy coming to the grounds.
I always thought she was a team player.
But now it's just a different story.
Yeah. Anyway, neither side.
The Wicked Witch of the East that dissolve in the rain.
Neither side has made a change as the second half is underway, and Arsenal in their red and white shirts and white shorts are playing from right to left, and they line up with Ramsdale in goal, the back four of white, Gabriel, Saliba and Zinchenko, Xhaka, Partey and Erdogan.
Welcome back to Goodison Park. Second half commentary of Everton 0, Brighton 1 to come. Myself, Tom Gale, and the former England and Premier League goalkeeper Paul Robinson. Matoma, his fourth goal since joining the club, 4 in his last 5 appearances, is what currently separates the two sides, and they are back on field, ready to go under referee Andre Mariner's instructions for the second half. And we are underway. It is the visitors in their fluorescent orange kits will be kicking towards the Gladys Street end. No changes at half-time, so I'll run you through the team news. So, starting with the home side, Pickford, back four of Patterson, Tarkowski, Cody. Colwell plays Russian roulette in his own penalty box, and Everton win the ball high up. Space for McNeil on the right hand side in front of the main stand. Floats in the cross towards Calvert-Lewin. Heading clear by Brighton. Sarmiento can't help it further. It's back into the Everton half with Tarkowski. Cody floats the pass looking for McNeil. Colwell with a header, picked up by Iwobi in the Brighton half. Ferguson wins back possession for the visitors though. Gross slows things down, comes infield to Caicedo. Space over the right hand side now as Veltman, the Dutchman, crosses the halfway line. March checks infield, finds Gross, neat flick. Ferguson 20 yards from goal, shrugs aside McNeil, tries to bend it into the top corner. He is all action, even Ferguson. His first Premier League start, he's hit the post, and a sign of intent, Paul Robinson. Barely 60 seconds played, he's already had a shot at goal.
Yeah, very much so from Brighton, but again a fast start from Everton. You trying to do your team news, they've not been able to do that. We've had such a fast start. Clearly a plan from Frank Lampard once again. Everton pressing high, Brighton taking risks inside their own penalty area, on the edge of the penalty area, and Everton pressing high with a number of bodies. When it doesn't work for Brighton, it looks bad, and when Brighton break the Everton press, Everton are in trouble. Pretty much the same as what happened in the first half, but Everton have started with a lot more intensity this second half and a lot more structure to the side. They're looking like they've got four in midfield, they've got outrun and outclassed in midfield. They're looking like they're playing with more of a 4-4-2 and a more packed midfield.
It's the voice of former England goalkeeper Paul Robinson as Calvert-Lewin wanders over to the far corner flag with Everton in possession. Royal blue shirt, white shorts, white socks. Few groans from the home fans as any pass doesn't go forwards. It's with Gray. A few yards in from the far touch line, right footed, stands up the cross. McNeil challenges Caicedo with a header clear. Davies looks to nip in, but Brighton do well, beat the press, and Caicedo tries to unleash Sarmiento over that far side. Tarkowski's header finds touch, so I will run you through that Everton team of Pickford, Tarkowski, Patterson, McNeil, Calvert-Lewin, Gray, Iwobi, Mikolenko, Davies, Gay and Cody. As for the visitors, who are a goal up here at Goodison: Sanchez, Dunk, Colwell, March, Gross, Sarmiento, Mitoma, the goal scorer, Caicedo, Ferguson, Estupiñán and Veltman. Lots of options for the visitors, offensive-wise, on the bench, including World Cup winner Alexis McAllister, the Argentine, back at the club yesterday. Head coach Roberto De Zerbi did say he'd have to see him in some form of training before making a decision. He's obviously fit enough to make the squad, but thus far not play a role. Gay trying to feed Gray over that far side. The groans will tell you that it didn't find its way through. And in terms of looking at that Everton bench, Paul Robinson, we said Neil Maupay, of course, the storyline there being a former Brighton player, but it's not screaming out with an absolute game changer for us.
Looking at the bench there, Everton's strength and depth, they really haven't got it. They've been waiting for a long time to get Dominic Calvert-Lewin fit, so why would you take him off?
Estupiñán towards the Everton penalty area. Cross goes over the far side. March will keep it in play. He's over by the far touchline, but turns and runs towards the Everton box. Sends a deep cross which will evade everyone. Estupiñán puts his head down. The Ecuadorian under pressure, can't keep it in play. Goal kick. Half time at Old Trafford. Manchester United 1, Bournemouth 0, and the 7:45s, of course, over on BBC 5 Live, which is also available on BBC Sounds if that's how you're listening to us. Swipe left for that one. It is Newcastle 0-0 away at Arsenal. And they'll have updates of this game as well as Fulham, who are a goal to the goods away at Leicester. Reaction in the BBC 5 Live Football Daily, available on BBC Sounds first thing tomorrow morning. And as it stands, we could be reacting to Everton off the back of 3 successive home defeats. It's never happened to Frank Lampard as a manager. But something needs to change here. The rain stopped, but Everton's fortunes in front of the goal are still severely lacking. Tarkowski in his own half. We played almost 5 minutes in the second half. Ambitious ball looking for Patterson. Goes all the way out for a Brighton goal kick, and there'll be a no rush to take.
They're lacking that little bit of quality, Everton. They're rushing things through. They're playing long balls that are now clearing the defence, going out in the corners, going out for goal kicks. Brighton's game management has been excellent. And Everton in the final third, they've chosen ball retention and possession over taking a risk, taking a chance, trying to get that final pass into an area.
Brighton again adopt the Very precarious play out from the back from the goal kick. Dispossessed. Iwobi, right hand side of the penalty area, surrounded by orange shirts, floats in the cross, far too close to the goalkeeper. Iwobi gets a lot of criticism, but I think largely because he's the one who largely gets on the ball for Everton. He's always willing, isn't he? He needs that bit of quality, but also he needs someone else to get on the end of his bits of quality.
Tom, I think he's been one of their better players. I think his work rate is up there with anyone's in this team. I think he gives them something different. He works very, very hard. He's not afraid to get on the ball. And in situations like this, you need players that aren't afraid to get on the ball. Players that aren't going to shrink in situations of pressure. And he's certainly not been one of those.
Ball into Sami Enso, who beats the defender 7 yards from goal, left hand side, sends it back across, and it's a tap in. Even Ferguson gets his second goal as a senior professional. Knee slide in front of the Gladys Street ends. Side footed finish 4 yards out. Everton's misery is compounded. Everton 0, Brighton 2.
That's the difference. The quality in the final third. When Brighton get their opportunities, they're ruthless. Ferguson there has the easiest of tasks. He won't score an easier Premier League goal all season. Press high up, ball comes across the 6 yard box, 6 yards out, 5 yards out, empty net in front of him. Once again, Brighton have comfortable possession in the middle of the pitch. Ball switched out to this left hand side. I think it's Mitoma on the ball yet again.
Everton 0, Brighton 2.
Cuts inside, ball comes into the box. So sloppy from the Everton defence. I'm just watching it on the replay there. Everton get 3 or 4 opportunities to make tackles, to clear the ball. It's not a difficult cross that they have to deal with. Into the box, Ferguson simplest the chances. Everton really are now against it. This place could really churn against the team. Frank Lampard's got it all to do now as a manager.
2 of the 4 players brought into the side by Roberto De Zerbi combining. Sami Enso, great work on the left. His bundled cross was latched upon by the Irish under-21. How long is he going to be an under-21 international if he keeps scoring at this rate? 2 Premier League appearances, 2 goals, and Brighton are 2-0 up away at Everton, and we played 52 and a half minutes. And it's been deserved, sorry Paul, it's been deserved.
You do, and I'm looking again at the substitutes bench for Everton. How do they change it? They've gone with a high press, they've gone with Calvert-Lewin high up the pitch, they've gone with Damari Gray, Dwight McNeil, they've put the attacking players on the pitch. It's got to be these players on the pitch that have to change it.
Brighton, 1 clean sheet in their last 12, which came 6 games ago. They have been vulnerable, but offensively they have been excellent. Sami Enso just stumbles over the ball, but when things are going your way, he's able to pick up the rebound, tussling there with Mikalenko, and it is an Everton throw in the left back position of the half. Reminder of those scores elsewhere: goalless between Arsenal and Newcastle. As you're hearing myself, Tom Gale and Paul Robinson. Brighton leading 2-0 at Everton. Fulham winning away at Leicester. And half-time, Manchester United through Casemiro, a goal up against Bournemouth, and Gay can't find Iwobi. Everton concede the throw in their own half as Pascal Gross just nudges past Neil Maupay, one of the Everton substitutes, limbering up. He's not stripped off yet, so no immediate signs from Frank Lampard as Cody misjudges the flight. Ferguson, left hand side of the penalty area to March. March cuts in field, creates space for the shot. He's going to pick his spot, and he's made an immediate impact. Far too easy. Solly March scores in back-to-back away games for the first time in his professional career, and some fans are heading for the exit. Everton 0, Brighton 3.
Wow, this place is emptying quickly. There's people walking past in the commentary box having their say down towards the manager. Brighton once again cut Everton open so easily. The ball, Everton lose possession. Conor Cody completely misjudges the flight of the ball. Tarkowski doesn't get close enough, and he just comes in off the right hand side. March walks into 12 yards out. There's 6-7 Everton players around him. He walks to 12 yards out, and all he has to do is got the easiest of tasks, just to side foot it past Jordan Pickford in the goal. The box is full of Everton players. Nobody gets close to him. One of the easiest goals he'll score. It's a great goal from Brighton's point of view, but Everton have capitulated in the second half. This stadium's emptying quickly.
And we're only in the 55th minute, ladies and gents. Buckle up. This could be an eventful evening And what an away performance from Brighton. It's going to be an Everton free kick, far right of the penalty area, as the big screen just shows Alexis McAllister stripping off. So to compound Everton's woes, they've got a World Cup winner who's priming himself to return back to Premier League action. And what a stage to join the party at, Paul. Your side 3-0 up.
I think on many other occasions, regardless of what ground he was playing at, he'd get quite a warm round of applause, but I don't think the attention is going to be on him at the moment. Everton's defending in the second half has been nothing short of atrocious. Brighton, to their credit, they've done very well, they've stuck to the game plan, but Everton have made it so easy for them. Defensively, it's night and day compared to the team that we saw play Manchester City.
McNeil, left-hand side of the penalty area, cross, goes past everyone. Estepinan does well to hook it clear. Little bit of afters between him and Patterson, and a missed pass by Gay. Gross is in, one-on-one. Has he got the pace? Tarkowski can't keep up with him. The German digs it over Pickford. It's 4! More boos! Pascal Gross, sneak slide in front of the away end. Idrissa Gay, poor back pass, gifted it to the German. He had a lot of work to do, a lot of distance to travel, kept his composure, dinked it over Pickford. Check this scoreline out on 5 Sports Extra, BBC Sounds. Everton 0, Brighton 4. We're in the 57th minute, Paul Robinson.
This is incredible. This capitulation from this Everton team in the second half is nothing short of an embarrassing defensive performance. They're in comfortable possession on the edge of the halfway line. Gay just turns around and explicitly puts it through. 1-on-1 with Pickford, dinks it over the goalkeeper. We've got a flare on the pitch now, we've got people leaving, we've got chances sack the board. Brighton 4-0 up, 56 minutes gone. What is happening to this Everton team? Listen to this.
Jubilation in the away end as we, myself and Paul, look over to that far right-hand section of the stands.
It was a great finish by Pascal Gross. I mean, he's run half the length of the pitch, completely unchallenged. 1-on-1 with Pickford. Pickford comes rushing out, dinks it over him. It's a fantastic finish from Gross. But Everton defensively, talk about teams being the masters of their own downfall. They have been absolutely terrible.
And Frank Lampard's the first manager to act in terms of changes. It's the teenager, the Northern Irishman, Isaac Price. And Abdoulaye Doucouré makes Tom Davies and Dwight McNeil, the two of Frank Lampard's changes are replaced. And there is a change for the visitors as well. One of their goal scorers, Solly March, is off.
Well, what a situation for youngster Isaac Price to come into. Not an easy game.
Apologies, I think they got the board up, but they didn't actually make the change. So Alexis McAllister still yet to come onto the field. It looks as though potentially Solly March will be the one making way. But the two confirmed changes for Everton, Price and Doucouré on. Davies and McNeil making way, and we haven't played an hour. Do not adjust your BBC Sounds app. This is right. Everton 0, Brighton 4. What's most worrying from an Everton perspective for you, Paul Robinson?
The fact that they haven't had an answer. They went 1-0 down in the first half and they haven't had a structure, they haven't had a plan. And they've come out in this second half, and for the first 5 minutes, as they did in the first 5 minutes of the first half, they pressed high, they looked organised, and they looked like they had a little bit of urgency about them. But then as soon as Brighton get the ball, they get in behind the midfield. Defensively, they've been so easy to break down. Not just getting in behind the midfield, getting in behind the defence, but the ease that Brighton have done it with 1-2 passes down the left-hand side, and they've just had no answer to this Brighton team. Yes, Brighton have been good, but Everton, this is the poorest that I've seen them this season. By far their poorest performance of the season, and it leaves them in a world of trouble.
And it could be more. Sarmiento brings Brighton forwards. March, who scored the third goal, left-hand side of the penalty area, sends in the cross to the back post. Matoma was poised and waiting, and Patterson just about got enough on it to nick it behind. Well, myself and Paul both remarked about fans disappearing. It has to be said, the vast majority have stayed behind, but there are pockets of royal blue seats as we look all around Goodison Park. Fans are not happy. Chance to sack the board, no doubt some frustration being vocalised towards manager Frank Lampard. and those players out there, and it could get worse. Pascal Gross, who scored the 4th goal with a right-footed in-swinging corner. Calvert-Lewin with a header clear, edge of the box of 3 Brighton players. March sends it back to Gross over this left-hand side. Tried the back heel, Patterson read it, goes out for a Brighton throw. Sends the quick throw to Matoma, takes it in his strides. The Japanese, Patterson lunges in, gets the ball, and actually gets a goal kick. Excellent defending from the Scot.
Yeah, but a good defending for him for tonight. He's been left exposed. Matoma's been excellent down this left-hand side, but Everton's defending have been woeful. They've been caught napping in so many areas. At times they've given the ball away, and at times it's just been really bad defending from them. Cody and Tarkowski were the key to their success, along with Ben Godfrey at Manchester City. They just haven't been at the races tonight. They just look like a team that are disjointed, that are running out of ideas. They don't seem to want to be on this pitch. They're 4-0 down with half an hour to go, and it's just not a nice place to be and not a nice atmosphere to be in.
And close your ears, Everton fans. Your side has failed to score in 5 of their last 8 Premier League games, so it would be scant consolation, but at least, Paul, if Calvert-Lewin can get a goal, it offers hope, because if we talk you through their upcoming games, of course they're all massive in the Premier League. As actually, I'll just break off, because it's not very often that you get to welcome on a World Cup winner, and that is the change for Brighton Hove Albion. Alexis McAllister, fresh from celebrations in Buenos Aires. It was his birthday over the festive period as well. He's back in action for his club, and good to see some of the Everton fans actually joining in that reception. They're 4-0 down, but they've got the grace and dignity to acknowledge a man who's won the greatest prize of all in world football, but definitely someone whose reputation continues to grow and grow, Paul Robinson, and another huge asset for Roberto De Zerbi to put out there against a fragile-looking Everton side.
Well, he was outstanding in the World Cup, wasn't he? I mean, he's done well in the Premier League, but the way that he played in the World Cup, he saw him play on that left-hand side. He's playing in a more central role. The only thing you question now, no disrespect to Brighton or the size of the club, but you question his own ambition to play in the Champions League at the top of the Premier League. He's certainly proved that he can go on and do that.
Well, the official quote from the man himself, speaking to BBC Radio Sussex, was he's more than happy. There is no rush.
No rush, but not ruling it out.
Yeah, of course. You know the game as very well, Paul Robinson. Nathan Patterson actually injured himself in that defensive exploits there. He's off. He's replaced by Seamus Coleman, and Neil Maupay is about to enter the occasion as well against his former sides. Their joint record goal scorer in Premier League history, 26 goals in the top flight for Brighton. He's now in the colours of Everton, and Idrissa Gueye makes way, slaps hands with Frank Lampard, who's putting on a brave face, but he knows he'll be asked plenty of tough questions by the media following this one. This is embarrassing, it has to be said.
Well, take the Manchester City game out of it and you look at the run that this Everton team are on, especially 4 straight defeats at home. It's not good enough, it's not acceptable. I mean, there's chance to sack the board. That's kind of taken the heat off the manager today. And as we saw after the last goal, there was an exodus, but the Gladys Street end stayed full. There's a lot of Everton fans staying here, 1 to support the team, but 2 to voice an opinion as well, and rightly so.
First touch for McAllister, the substitute. Colwell's got time to stud roll the ball, finds the Argentine, neat 1-2 with Caicedo pulling the strings. It's now with Matoma. Different opposition for him though. He's got Seamus Coleman standing him up. Back to Caicedo, 25 yards from goal. Calvert-Lewin tackling back. Striker wins it. Chance for Everton to counter. Gray, left-hand side, no impact whatsoever from the fans as they see their side come forwards. Mikolenko, Decore, edge of the box, left-hand side, sends a tame shot across goal. Positive, but as we pointed out on more than one occasion, Paul Robinson, no cutting edge.
That just about sums up Everton's night, doesn't it? I mean, the first time this second half they got into real meaningful position. Mikolenko puts the ball across to Decore. He's in a decent position there, 12 yards out, slightly off centre to the left-hand side. He just drags his shot tamelessly wide, and it almost struggles to get over the byline, in all honesty.
So we've still got 25 minutes of normal time remaining. A lot can happen in football, but I'll be very surprised if I'm calling home an Everton comeback And if it does end in defeat, they'll be the first top flight club in professional English men's football to lose 500 games in the top flight. Everton. Unwanted statistics. It's a sign of their longevity, how long they've been at the top table.
Yeah, you could flip that one.
Football.
You could flip that one to say that we've been at the top table for that long to lose that many games.
Which, of course, I'm offering up that BBC balance. But Everton fans won't hear anything. There's no positives that can be taken from this evening, Paul. They are in a tough spot.
I think the timing of your excellent stat has more poignance than their stat itself. The actual fourth defeat at home and where they are in the league and the performance is another addition to that fantastic stat you just pulled out.
Thank you very much. Pickford clears, looking for Calvert-Lewin, who's not had a kick really most of the night, and particularly in this second half, whereas Ferguson, Cruyff turn, March, right hand side of the penalty area, on his right foot, Pickford with a save. Still chance for Brighton though. Gross tries to flick it over to the far side. Poor cross, Iwobi lets it roll, misjudged that, and it's that with Matoma, left hand side of the penalty area. Back into McAllister, sets himself for the strike. It was always rising, nestles into the Gladys Street, but the ability of Brighton, where we credit them to say they're so good at carving Everton open, but on the other side it's far too easy.
This could become embarrassing for Everton tonight. They've got a leader on the pitch in Cody and Tarkowski. They've now got Coleman on there. They've got voices on the pitch. They have to ensure that they don't concede another goal tonight. They can't afford for this game to get any more embarrassing than it is. They've brought on Mopé. They've got Calvert-Lewin. Damari Gray on the far side, his body language for me is awful. His shoulders are down, he's not interested until the ball's anywhere near him, and that's too many players in this Everton team aren't working hard enough. Their attitude and commitment doesn't look right, and that's a worrying thing for Frank at the moment.
Seamus Coleman does well in the right back position. Tough spot, is able to bring his side away with the ball. Mopé plays it into the youngster Isaac Price. He can't offset it immediately. Brighton are in to close the space and win back possession, and they are just seeing this one out.
It's too easy. It's far too easy for them. When they get the ball back, they just go backwards, keep possession. They seem to attack at will. Everton get a goal kick, try and play out. Okay, Brighton will take the ball back again. It really, really has been a poor performance for Everton tonight. Excellent from Brighton, the way that they've set up the game plan, the way they've executed it. But the defensive performance from Everton has been nothing short of terrible.
Another goal at Old Trafford. Eric Ten Hag's side are now 2-0 up against Bournemouth. So a reminder of those scores. Full reaction in the BBC Radio 5 Live Football Daily, wherever you get your podcasts from. BBC Sounds tomorrow morning. No doubt you'll hear the thoughts of Paul Robinson, but in particular the two managers sat in front of Paul and myself in the main stand here. Head coach of Brighton, Roberto De Zerbi, with arguably his most impressive performance since taking the reins. Of course, they had that incredible win against Chelsea at home, but 4-0 away does not come very often. And of course, what questions are going to be asked about Frank Lampard's future by the media? He's seen his side try and come forward, but March once again has been excellent this evening. 28-year-old academy product. Challenged with scoring more goals. He's got 2 in his last 3 appearances and back-to-back away goals. And I think that's, we were saying when we saw Billy Gilmour warming up at half-time, Paul Robinson, like, who'd you take off in a Brighton shirt? Because to a man, the goalkeeper as well has played his part. It's been an excellent performance from their side.
Great team performance. Billy Gilmour was fully stripped at half-time and looking like he was coming on. And we were trying to work out who was coming on, and there wasn't anybody there that was an obvious candidate. Matoma may have taken a knock in the first half, and he was the one that we were looking at. But this Brighton team, like you say, to a man, have been excellent. The substitutions they've made have worked, and it's been a really, really good away performance from them tonight. And I worry for Everton. I think there's more goals to come.
Matoma, left-hand side, cuts in field at speed. Rolls it across the box. Gross shapes for the shot, lays it off to March on his right foot, wants to check back in field. Crowded out. Decore under pressure though, back to Mikolenko. He didn't want that. The Ukraine man did well. Gray does well equally so to hold the ball up, do a 180 turn and try and bring Everton away. They're still in their own half over the left hand side. We're in the 70th minute. Frank Lampard's side trailing 4-0. Coleman, head up, looking for Calvert-Lewin. Colwell steps across. Good header by the Chelsea loanee. Price does a neat trick to bypass Espetina. Rolls away all the way back post. Gray sets himself. Can't keep the shot down. Well, he produced a moment of magic at the Etihad at the weekend. Similar spot really, but this time he found himself wanting ironic cheers from the away end because more and more Everton fans now heading to the exits. They've seen enough, and Brighton are going to make further changes. Veltman, one of the 4 changes made by Roberto De Zerbi. He's had an excellent evening, the Dutch defender. He's going to be replaced by Tariq Lamptey. And 18-year-old Evan Ferguson, 2 in 2 in the Premier League. Excellent stuff from him. And he's going to be replaced by Julio Enciso. Brighton goal kick. They continue this approach of playing out, rolled across the 6-yard line to Dunk, who, it's just so easy, the cut through Everton, and Lamptey's now bringing them forward. First touch for the substitute, chests it into his path, looking for Enciso, ignores that run, continues forward, fires the ball into Enciso. He's never going to control that. Everton clear their lines. Mopé wins the header, can't combine with Calvert-Lewin. It's back with Brighton's goalkeeper Sanchez. Again, Paul, you know the game so much. That is just too easy in terms of from the Brighton 6-yard box to almost the Everton 6-yard box.
From one 6-yard box to the other 6-yard box in 3 passes. Not long balls, not long punts. 3 passes, 1 long pass in that situation. But it's just far, far too easy. Everton, we know that the game's up for them. They're playing with 3 up front. It's getting a lot easier for Brighton. They can almost score at will. The manager's brought on players. He's obviously rotating his squad. He's giving players minutes. He's giving players rest. And this game's up. There's 19 minutes of normal time left. But it's damage limitations for Everton. And it's almost that if Brighton wanted to step on the gas and score more, they could. They really could.
As soon as we're done here at Goodison, I would encourage you to switch your dial to BBC Radio 5 Live. We'll have reaction to all the evening's Premier League. For those who are devout Sports Extra listeners, 11 p.m. this evening, ball-by-ball commentary. It's the 3rd test, Australia against South Africa. Live and in full from Sydney. That's on air from 11 p.m. Pickford rolls it out to Cody. And this was an Everton side who were praised so much at the start of the season for their robustness in defence. It's just gone. It's gone. And they're not scoring goals at the other end, which is a worrying prospect for Everton fans. But if your side's beneath them, insert Forest, insert West Ham, insert Southampton, you'd be encouraged by this and thinking, wow, Everton are in a really bad spot at the moment, Paul.
Well, if there was any doubt if they're in a relegation battle or not, tonight has just confirmed that they really are.
And Ciso with the shots straight down the throat of Jordan Pickford.
I mean, you take out the Manchester City performance, which now Pep Guardiola must be looking at this, scratching his head as to why they've put such a big dent into his title hopes. When you look at the results that they've had of late, they lost here to Wolves, lost at Bournemouth twice, lost against Leicester, drew at Fulham, and the last win was in October against Crystal Palace, which, I mean, it seems a lifetime ago.
74% of Everton's 39 points last season, so 29 for those with the quick maths. 29 of their 39 points last season, which was also a difficult campaign, came at home, and they are struggling at Goodison. This atmosphere is not helping, but fans can only be honest with what they're seeing out there, and it's not good enough. And Ciso played through by Gross, and you have to credit Brighton as well, Paul, because there's no let-up. There's no let-up.
They've got this game comfortably won, and they know they have. When they need to put the foot on the pedal and just exert a little bit more pressure, they are doing. They've got comfortable possession now. Every single player is in the Everton half. Everton once again chasing around, chasing shadows. They just look so disjointed. They're just looking for something. It's just not happened for them tonight.
One for the stats, but I'm pretty sure this might be up there in Brighton's biggest ever away Premier League wins, and they are asking more questions as Lamptey fires the ball in from the right. Caicedo, McAllister, back to Caicedo. They're toying with Everton here on the edge of the box. The Argentine, 25 yards from goal, centre on. Estupiñán, brought down by Iwobi. Free kick, left hand side of the penalty area. Mopé protests, but simple yellow card for Alex Iwobi.
Well, you can see the frustration, and I mean, a few years ago they're playing Olays on the edge of the Everton penalty area. McAllister, Lamptey, they're playing 1-2s. Caicedo keeping the ball, and not so long ago from now there'd be an old-fashioned player that had put somebody in the stand, never mind get a yellow card for it. But the atmosphere's gone very, very quiet, and like I say, the game's up, and Brighton are almost playing testimonial football in front of this Everton back four. Everton desperately don't want to concede any more goals. They can't afford for this to get any worse. Jordan Pickford's still shouting at his defence, organising his wall. Him tonight, to be fair, he couldn't do anything with the goals. He's not had that much to do save-wise. He's made a couple of saves you'd have expected him to make, and for the goals he couldn't have done anything. He's just been left so exposed.
Matoma, Ferguson, March, and the free kick taker in front of us, Pascal Gross, with the goals. Gross lays it off to McAllister, takes on the strike, very ambitious, closed down by Price. Gray sees his attempted clearance deflects off Matoma, and it's a Brighton throw. We're in the final 15 minutes of normal time. You can see Adam Lallana stripped off down to just his bib, so it looks as though the former England international could be the latest change from Brighton, who are 4-0 up at Everton. Live here on BBC Sounds, BBC 5 Sports Extra, BBC Sport website and app. March over the far right hand side, Mykolenko closest to him, happy to just retreat back to his captain Lewis Dunk. Caicedo, who for me has been excellent in front of that back four, the Ecuadorian. Great recruitment from Brighton from all corners of the globe, but in particular South America. There's been a particular goal mine for them. McAllister, the poster boy for that. Mopé in his own half, plays it straight back to Pickford. Dangerous. Go on, Paul, sorry.
Their recruitment just seems to be excellent, isn't it, every season? The policy that they've got in place, the structure they've got behind the scenes there, their recruitment, they seem to get it right, and they get it right more often than not. I can't remember the last one that they've got that hasn't worked for them.
Scores in the Premier League, 7:45 kickoffs over on BBC 5 Live. Arsenal 0, Newcastle 0. As you're hearing myself and Paul Robinson, Everton 0, Brighton 4. Fulham still 1-0 up away at Leicester, and Manchester United 2-0 up at home to Bournemouth. Chance, March, right hand side, edge of the box, left footed, deflected strike, and Enciso tries to figure his feet out. He's able to turn and face up goal, sends across, back across goal. Mykolenko with the diving header. Caicedo keeps the attack alive. Gross, attempted dummy, sends in the cross. Cody, flicked header clear. It's going to go out to Gross, and he's happily going to see that roll into touch despite Mykolenko's attempts for an Everton throw. And just how disconsolate the whole crowd are, Paul, that they're not even emotive when they see the side lose possession.
No, he's been good tonight, Pascal Gross, though, in fairness to Brighton. The two wide men are the ones for me, Solly March and Matoma, that have done the damage. Got wide, Matoma coming off now, they're making a change. He's had an excellent game. I think he's caused a lot of problems by playing high, playing wide, and really stretched this Everton defence.
So Matoma, who got the ball rolling quite literally in the 14th minute, he makes way for Adam Lallana, and it's going to be a Premier League debut for 19-year-old academy graduate Andrew Moran. The Brighton number 49 replaces another one of Brighton's goal scorers, Solly March, registering back-to-back away goals for the first time in his career. Further plaudits for the South Coasters, who have been excellent, but you have to balance that up with how poor have Everton been. And for the first 5 minutes of this game, Paul Robinson, we were thinking we're in for, a very strong performance from the home side, but Brighton, accomplished hitters at this level, managed the game and taken their opportunities clinically. A break off because Calvert-Lewin has a chance to strike from the edge of the box. Fizzes wide, a few boos, but
and a few people having their last say as they make for the turnstiles. Credit to this crowd, there's a few that did disappear after the goals went in, but there's quite a strong majority that have stayed to support the team, to vent their frustrations at the board, at the manager, which rightly so, they have the right to do that. The team have been poor tonight, they've offered very, very little, but you said there, the first half, the first 5 minutes, they started really brightly. After a really encouraging result at Manchester City, they started how you'd expect them to, and the start of the second half they showed the same, but other than 5 minutes at the beginning of each half, Brighton have been so dominant.
Brighton are still at it, harassing Everton. Combination of Lamptey and Lallana, double team on Gray, but Everton come away with the ball. Mykolenko downfield to Calvert-Lewin, tried to chest it into the path of Mopé, but it is just not going the blue half of Merseyside's way whatsoever this evening. Colwell brings Brighton forward, Paul?
It's too easy. I mean, every time Everton get possession, 1 or 2 passes, and they've lost possession, whether that's through their own misdoing or Brighton's excellent possession, their game plan, their pressing. But Everton have had no real concise possession tonight. They've had no consistent possession. Maybe at the end of the first half they had a little bit, they offered a little bit, but then the pressing at the beginning of the first half, beginning of the second half. But you look at the times they've really threatened Robert Sanchez's goal, and apart from the Alex Iwobi shot in the first 5 minutes where Sanchez made an excellent save, I can't remember the goalkeeper being in too much trouble.
Mope, 30 yards from goal, centre on, goes to the right, Iwobi sends in the cross looking for Calvert-Lewin, Dunk wins the header. Not sure if that was intentional, but he was able to guide it back to his goalkeeper. I'm sure Everton fans are fully aware of the situation, but if you're not, head on to the BBC Sport website app. You'll see Everton in 16th, but just a point above the drop zone, with teams below them all due to play later this week. What does it say about the future of Frank Lampard, Paul? Your former international teammate.
He was facing a lot of big questions before the Manchester City game, and I think it's not going to get easier after this. His press conference is going to be probably one of the most uncomfortable ones that he's had wearing an Everton tracksuit. Listen, managers have a lifespan. Everywhere that you look around, managers have a lifespan, and Frank's at the time now where the board, the owners, whoever makes the decision is looking at relegation, and you have to look at whether you give a new manager time to change things, you bring a new man in time for the January transfer window, or you back the one that you've got. And Everton are in a real predicament at the moment as to what they do. They could go either way. They're either going to back him in January, stick with him and they believe in his methods, or they have to make a change, bring somebody else in, give him the January transfer window and hope that a new voice with a few new faces keeps him in the league once again, because at the moment they're in a relegation battle again, which I didn't think they would be this year.
Everton fans, you can have your say. Hashtag BBC Football. There is the live text commentary as well as the comments of myself, Tom Gale, and former England goalkeeper Paul Robinson in the live text on the BBC Sport website and app. Do you still believe in Frank Lampard? It was February of last year that he took over. He did the job of keeping them up from a perilous position, but there were firm expectations that Everton would kick on this campaign, and it looks as though they're set for back-to-back relegation battles. Lamptey, right-hand side of the penalty area, moving at speed. Mikolenko gets close, he goes near post, fires wide. But once again, we said plenty of joy down the left-hand side, particularly in the first half. The second half, it's switched flanks and changing personnel, but same approach from Brighton. And actually, I'll just interrupt there because there's a few boos as Dominic Calvert-Lewin is replaced, and it's a return for Ellis Sims, who was recalled from his loan at Sunderland, where he scored 7 goals in 17 appearances in all competitions for the Championship sides. But Everton fans frustrated with the club's finances, and maybe that is the approach that Frank Lampard's dealing with the cards that he's got, that he's got out of form strikers and he has to recall a youngster from the Championship, Paul.
Well, listen, he's doing really well there. He's having an excellent season. He's scoring goals, and for the youngsters' development it's not ideal, but when you've got a striker like Calvert-Lewin, you can't rely on him scoring goals or staying fit. You're not getting goals from anywhere else, so why wouldn't you bring him back? I think it's a very sensible move for the lad's career, for his own development. It's a difficult time for him to come back, sit on the bench when he's been playing every week and enjoying his football, but from an Everton point of view it's a complete no-brainer when you can't rely on the strikers you've got.
6 minutes of normal time remaining. The scoring halted just shy of the hour mark, but yeah, that shows you how bad it's got. All those 4 goals from Brighton scored inside 58 minutes. A number of fans left when the third went in. Similar ratio when the fourth went in, and we have no doubt there will be boos at the full-time whistle. We've talked enough about the Everton situation. What about Brighton? Certainly looking up, Paul. They are moving up to 8th as it stands, and they are just, well, do we have to consider them top 4? They're 8 points off the top 4, but given that they've lost their manager early on in the season, but they've continued to matched the great strides. It hasn't thrown them off track, and they are realistic top 7 European contenders based on what we've seen with almost half the season played.
Yeah, they're definitely European contenders. I think top 4's a little bit too far. I mean, you look at what Newcastle are doing this year, but you look at the budget that Newcastle have got compared to the budget that Brighton have got. They're realistic European contenders, outside chances. They're a very, very well structured team, well drilled, and the setup behind the scenes. You know, De Zerbi, there's not many people outside of football that had heard of him. When you see him brought in as a replacement for Graham Potter, you just wondered where they would go, how they would react to this new manager. But the squad of players, the group of players that they've got, has proved that they're good enough to do it. They've adapted to the new manager's ideas. He's tweaked the team, tweaked the formation, and I think it's one of the best Brighton teams that we've seen.
Olays from the away end, who you have to take your hat off to. Of course, I know not all football fans travel from the exact geographical location of their club, but for anyone who has made the trip from Brighton up to Merseyside, we're talking 5-6 plus hours one way. So we're talking half a day travel potentially. And what have they been rewarded with? A night to remember. This is what away days are all about. You can savour results like this. And as a player, Paul, particularly, you know, your bread and butter, you're perhaps getting the mentality of it's just a win, but for fans like this, nights like this are going to live long in the memory.
Oh, it's fantastic. Like you say, the journey that a lot of these fans have made. And I mean, yes, you do say they don't all come from their local geographical area, but the buses that we walked past tonight from the car park to come here shows you that quite a lot of them have done. And, you know, fans spend a lot of hard-earned money to follow their team, and which is why a lot of fans are frustrated at times when the teams don't perform. But nights like this for Brighton fans, that journey home won't seem so bad when they're getting in tomorrow morning and it's broad daylight.
Well, hopefully they'll be tuning in to wherever they get their podcasts from, downloading the latest episode of the 5 Live Football Daily, hosted by Kelly Cates. Reaction from all this evening's Premier League games. No doubt this will be one of the main headlines as Everton continue to stagnate at the foot of the table, whereas Brighton have their heads firmly looking forward and upwards, and history at stake for them. Once this is signed and sealed, it's the first time in their history that they'll have won 3 away games in successive performances in the top flight. And it's been a really tactically astute performance from De Zerbi. We were questioning him with the 4 changes. Top goal scorer Trossard on the bench. Boy, have his backups or squad. Football is a squad game. Those who win in favour. A matter of games ago, they've stepped up and delivered a really excellent performance, and we are just seeing out the motions here on 5 Sports Extra BBC Sounds as Estepino wins the header, but Coleman latches on it 30 yards from goal, but he's shrugged aside by McAllister, and then Ciso is able to race forward, checks in field as the beating of Price comes across to Gross. He's got Lamptey as the option wide right, and I think Lamptey's probably just going to try and head to the corner flag, keeps possession, comes in field to Caicedo. We're all backing off Enciso. He didn't take much encouragement to take on the shot. It's a grass cutter, but it's tame, and again, stony silence here apart from that very vocal away end.
They've got all the time in the world, Brighton. They don't even need to run it into the corners. They've got free possession in the Everton half. Nobody seems to be closing them down. The Everton players are keeping the ball now. Brighton are letting them have it. They just want this game over. They want the final whistle. Anything more than 2 minutes injury time here, the Everton players are not going to be happy. They just want to get off this pitch and get in the dressing room as quick as possible. None of these players want to be on this pitch right now.
It's going to be back-to-back league wins in the top flight for Brighton at Goodison Park. It's the 6th meeting in the Premier League at Goodison Park. Everton won the first 4. Brighton 3-2 winners pretty much 12 months ago. Another dramatic game at the start of 2022, and an equally dramatic game, not the goals from Everton, but in terms of narrative and storyline. The Brighton star continues to shine bright, whereas Everton, their fans are stretching to see any positives from their side. Estepina races forward, and Ciso, left-hand side of the penalty area, goes to the near post. Pickford saves easily, and the shot count as well has just continued to rack up as well. I was saying to our colleague Chris Coles here at half-time about the work of Ashley Cole defensively, but I guess it's just across the board, isn't it, Paul? If we look throughout the team, attack through to defence, there's just players bereft of confidence.
It's a really, really poor team performance. Lacking ideas, lacking structure. Defence starts from the front. They haven't had that tonight. They had a plan. They pressed high. That didn't work. They got picked off too easily. Brighton insisted on playing short, sideways, but they split Everton open far too easily with one or two passes. They're into Everton's half. They broke the press, and then Everton didn't know what to do.
The fourth official, David Webb, has indicated there's going to be a minimum of 3 extra minutes of misery for Everton fans to grin and bear. And on the other foot, Brighton continue to revel in their excellent performance as chance down the middle for Iwobi, 1-on-1, but the pass has just got a little bit too much on it. Iwobi's done well. He's round the goalkeeper Sanchez, who brings him down. Everton have a penalty in added time here. Ball across the goal. Sorry, the ball was sent across by Sims. It should have been cleared by Brighton. Iwobi kept running, sidestepped Sanchez. Keeper was committed, brought down Iwobi. Penalty, Paul Robinson.
Mix up between the goalkeeper and Estepinen. I think one thought the other one was getting it. They both ended up colliding. Iwobi just nicks in. Sanchez on this wet, slippery night can't stop, and he slides in and takes out Iwobi. Clear penalty. Far more than Everton deserved, an opportunity to score.
It's Everton's first penalty of this Premier League season in front of what has to be say a Park End which is scattered with patterings of fans. Most have left from that away end. Sanchez has saved one of the 4 penalties that he's faced so far this campaign. The Spaniard in his yellow attire against Damari Gray. Consolation for Everton. Right-footed, slow run up, straight down the middle. Everton do get their consolation. Damari Gray scores in back-to-back games. Everton 1, Brighton 4.
A goal that Everton didn't deserve, but if anyone on the pitch was going to score, it was Damari Gray. He's posed the most threat in the first half with his runs, his cuts inside. He was more direct than anybody else. Second half starved the service. Body language wasn't great from him in the second half. His work rate was really poor, but I think first half he probably deserved a goal for his work rate and his efforts. But I mean, this doesn't take off anything how poor this Everton performance was. This will be overlooked by everybody. This performance has been terrible.
Well, there is the frustration for Roberto De Zerbi that it's going to stretch to 1 clean sheet in 13 Premier League games, but again, that's nitpicking. This side have been excellent. Everton have their goal. Damari Gray's 3rd of the Premier League campaign, 5 in all competitions. He's their top scorer, and I think, if we have to be honest, he is the one who's looked most likely, but it's been night and day in terms of his performance first half compared to second half.
Yeah, second half it wasn't the same player. I mean, first half he looked lively, he was direct, he caused problems, he won corners, won set plays. Second half, as soon as they went a couple of goals down, he seemed to down tools. His body language wasn't great. He wasn't getting the ball, and you see him now as the final whistle's gone. Body language again from everyone in the blue shirt.
Full time, boos from the home fans, but history for Brighton. The first time in their entire history they won 3 consecutive away Premier League games. 4-1 the final score. They move up to 8. Cries have sacked the board as Everton remain in 16, just 1 point above the drop. It was 1-0 at half time. Calamity struck though, goals in quick succession. Brighton were 4-0 up inside the hour, and a Damari Gray penalty in added time is no consolation for this Goodison faithful, who are not going easily. They're letting their frustrations be known here in the main stand. I've been alongside the former England and Premier League goalkeeper Paul Robinson. 2 questions, Paul. We'll take Brighton certainly for first and foremost. Excellent performance from the visitors.
Really good. Had a game plan, played out from the back, beat the Everton press, played well going forward. Matoma, Solly March, Pascal Gross, excellent performances. Everyone in a Brighton shirt tonight played really, really well. Everton on the flip side of that, one of the worst performances. defensively, absolutely terrible, woeful in fact. One of the worst defensive displays you'll see. Some of the players staying out now, going to clap the fans. It's not reciprocated. The fans' frustration at the board, at the manager. This isn't a happy stadium to be in at the moment. I was expecting so much better after the Manchester City performance, but this run of games that they're on now, they've got a really big decision as to what they do with the manager's future here now.
Seamus Coleman's leading the charge towards the Gladys Street ends. Those fans that have stayed behind are offering their applause. There are distinctive cries of sack the boards. The fans letting their voice be heard as regards to where they feel the blame lies. As we look out into that away end, I can see a number of Argentina number 20 shirts. Their World Cup winner Alexis McAllister is amongst that core of Brighton players who to a man have been excellent. Thanks for joining us here on BBC 5 Sports Extra, BBC Sounds. On behalf of myself, Tom Gale and Paul Robinson, stay tuned. Next coverage here on 5 Sports Extra. It comes at 11 p.m. Test cricket is the third test, Australia against South Africa, live from Sydney. Until next time, thanks for joining us.